Chapter 3259. Right now, Fan Xian was trying to break through the barrier Qin Zhao had set up. The barrier couldn't be seen or touched. Fan Xian had a premonition. He obviously didn't want to wait for death. But Qin Zhao's world barrier was a manifestation of his power. To break through the barrier, he had to surpass Qin Zhao's power. If he had the ability, he wouldn't have to run. Qin Zhao's barrier slowly tightened. Fan Xian had less and less space to move around. He knew that he'd really met his match this time. The moment Qin Zhao activated his original form, he knew what kind of person he was facing. Last year, he'd sensed that someone had broken through to the Shangqing realm. He'd also left his mark in the world and reached the Ascension realm. He never thought that he'd meet Qin Zhao in this way. He thought that Qin Zhao was just an ordinary cultivator. Maybe he was stronger, but he definitely wouldn't connect Qin Zhao to the person who'd broken through to the Shangqing realm. In his imagination, Qin Zhao could become the most powerful person in the world. He might not look like a sage, but he should at least have the demeanor of a master. But when Qin Zhao didn't reveal his aura, he was no different from an ordinary person. He hadn't expected to meet him here. He'd kicked the hardest iron plate in the world. The 10,000 Buddha seal might have an effect on Fan Xian, but it definitely couldn't suppress Fan Xian's full power. Even if he had to use up all his Buddhist power. Zhang Qiani was wrong about one thing. The Buddhist energy of the Buddhist sect was different from magic energy. Outsiders mistakenly thought that Buddhist power was Dharma power. In reality, they weren't the same thing. The cultivation method of the Buddhist sect also cultivated magic power. Buddhist power was a derivative. For Buddhist cultivators, if Dharma power was their main food, then Buddhist power was a supplement, or a side dish. The power of Buddhism was extremely useful in cultivation and in battle. But Buddhist power was also indispensable. It could be less, but not none. If a Buddhist cultivator ran out of Buddhist power, then he'd lose control of his Dharma power and cultivation. This was an extremely terrifying thing for Buddhist cultivators. Qin Zhao wasn't in a hurry to kill Fan Xian. He just controlled her first, and then checked his body's condition. A part of his power had turned into Buddhist power. Of course, it was only a small part of his full power. The mini heaven and earth barrier had shrunk to less than half a meter in diameter. Right now, it was difficult for Brahma to even raise her hand. And the barrier of the small world was still shrinking. Fan Xian had already lost control of her expression. Fan Xian lacked emotions to begin with, and she also cultivated the tranquil heart technique. He could control his emotions very well. Even when his family passed away in the secular world, he could still maintain his composure. However, this did not mean that he had no fear. Fear was also an emotion, but it was different from other emotions. In other words, fear was not only a neurological reaction, but also a physiological reaction. Other emotions are learned later in life. Only fear was something that humans were born with and mastered. At this moment, Fan Xian was terrified. This also caused his Tranquil Heart Sutra to become more and more chaotic. Huh! Qin Zhao realized that the 10,000 Buddha seal in his body was becoming unstable. It was as if Qin Zhao had found a fun toy. He slowed down the shrinking speed of the barrier between heaven and earth again. Fan Xian's expression began to change more and more. The more flustered he looked, the more unstable the 10,000 Buddha seal in Qin Zhao's body became. Brahma's palms tried to push open the barrier of heaven and earth. But his power was meaningless in the face of the barrier of the small world. Just then, the voice of the hotel customer service manager came from outside the door. Knock, knock, knock. Mr. Chen, are you inside? Mr. Chen. What happened inside? Clearly, the hotel had sensed something when Qin Zhao broke the window. Qin Zhao glanced at the door. The customer service manager had already used the hotel card to open the door because Qin Zhao had not responded. Qin Zhao used the small world to block the door so that the manager could not push it open. At the same time, Qin Zhao grabbed Fan Xian and flew through the window. Fortunately, it was night time and Qin Zhao was very fast. But Qin Zhao was in his original form now, so he was like a large light source. So, he still left an obvious trail in the sky above the city. Qin Zhao flew toward the open sea. He flew for thousands of kilometers and found a desolate island. Then he stopped and threw Fan Xian on the ground. At this moment, Fan Xian was no longer as calm and collected as before. Only fear and helplessness were left. "Mr. Chen, we can talk?" "You misunderstood." Chen Zhao shook his head and said calmly. "There's no misunderstanding." "I don't think it's a misunderstanding." Qin Zhao silently felt the 10,000 Buddha seal in his body. Right now, he did not even need to try to expel it. The seal was about to collapse by itself. But it would be a problem if it stayed in his body. Qin Zhao shook it hard. The seal did not completely collapse, but he could clearly feel that it had weakened a lot. It did not have the spirituality it had before. Right now, Qin Zhao felt that the seal was on its last breath. Qin Zhao pointed at Fan Xian. Fan Xian immediately put up a golden shield. While blocking Qin Zhao's attack, he was also sent flying. At the same time, Qin Zhao felt that the 10,000 Buddha seal had become even weaker. It seemed that Fan Xian's condition also affected the seal's strength. Qin Zhao slapped Fan Xian across the air. Fan Xian had just been hit by Qin Zhao. His qi and blood were already unstable. Before he could react, he was hit again. This made him spit out blood and fly back. In the past, Fan Xian had kept her hair long, and she really did look like a phoenix. But now, her hair was disheveled and her face was covered in mud and blood. "Mr. Chen, please listen to me." Qin Zhao slapped again. Fan Xian's chest caved in, and he was sent flying again. "Mr. Chen." Qin Zhao kicked him again. "Ah!" Fan Xian roared. The Buddhist light on his body exploded. But he still could not block Qin Zhao's punch. Qin Zhao's original form was also golden. It looked like a Buddhist Dharma spell. Actually, there was a fundamental difference between the two. Fan Xian was making a final struggle. The golden light on his body grew several times stronger. But right now, Qin Zhao had activated his original form. In this form, Qin Zhao could really destroy the world. Qin Zhao punched Fan Xian again and again. With each punch, Fan Xian's aura weakened a bit. The 10,000 Buddha seal was also on the verge of collapse. If he had known that the 10,000 Buddha seal could be broken with such a violent method, Qin Zhao would not have to worry anymore. Now, he was not worried anymore. Compared to Mohan's 9 Viscera techniques, the 10,000 Buddha seal was really weak. It was not as difficult as Qin Zhao had thought. Chapter 3260. The 10,000 Buddha seal was not weak at all. To most opponents, Brahma's innumerable Buddha seal was like a nuclear bomb. Take Zhang Tianyi for example. When he had fought with Fan Xian, who was half a step into the Shangqing state, had forced Zhang Tianyi into a corner. The 10,000 Buddha seal was definitely a great achievement. 20 years ago, Zhang Tianyi was struck by the 10,000 Buddha seal. Even though his cultivation base was higher than Fan Xian's, at least half of his cultivation base was sealed. Fan Xian, on the other hand, used her Buddhist power. His cultivation was still there, so he could barely resist Zhang Tianyi's attack. Moreover, Zhang Tianyi wasn't as strong as he was now 20 years ago. That was why Zhang Tianyi and Fan Xian had fought to a draw back then. In fact, Zhang Tianyi lost face. If it had been a life-and-death battle, Zhang Tian could have torn Fan Xian's body apart in a matter of minutes. However, the confrontation back then was just an exchange, not life and death. However, Fan Xian had used the same trick again this time, but she had chosen the wrong target. If Qin Zhao was also in the Shangqing realm, Brahma might have succeeded. However, the difference between an ascendance level and a prime clarity level was far greater than the difference between a prime clarity level and a half-step prime clarity level. Even though Fan Xian had used all of her Buddhist power, Qin Zhao was still in ascendance. Fan Xian, on the other hand, had lost all of his Buddhist power. Although his cultivation was still at the Shang-Qing realm, his battle prowess was 30 to 40% weaker. How were they supposed to fight? There was already a huge gap between them. Through the 10,000 Buddha seal, this gap did not shrink. Instead, it widened. However, Chen Zhao had beaten Fan Xian up for so long. Brahma heart could really take a beating, an incredible amount of it. Even if Chen Zhao didn't kill him. But after fighting for so long, Chen Zhao's power gradually increased. Fan Xian had managed to resist. Although he vomited blood, although he was covered in cuts and bruises, although his entire body was fractured. But Fan Xian said that she was still alive. The 10,000 Buddha seal in Chen Zhao's body had already disintegrated. However, Chen Zhao was interested in Fan Xian. What were the characteristics of his cultivation technique? Was he supposed to be able to take a beating? Chen Zhao was still increasing his power. Fan Xian coughed up blood as she struggled to survive. Chen Zhao's strength was so great that each punch could change the surrounding terrain. With every punch, the rock formation on the ground would change. And yet, Brahma's fleshly body had withstood it. It had to be said that Fan Xian's constitution surpassed that of most magical beasts. Even in the Western giant dragon clan, perhaps only the Dragon Emperor could be mentioned in the same breath as this bald donkey. Suddenly, Brahma heart erupted with golden light that was 10 times stronger than before. Chen Zhao took a few steps back. He was surprised that Brahma heart could still be strengthened. However, in the next instant, Fan Xian suddenly transformed into a huge rock, its entire body burning with golden flames, and soared into the sky. That speed was simply unimaginable. While Chen Zhao was distracted, Fan Xian had already flown into the clouds. Chen Zhao kicked the ground and chased after him. But the rock was just as fast as Chen Zhao. After all, even Chen Zhao himself didn't know what speed he could reach in his origin form. In this form, no instrument could measure his speed. Unless Chen Zhao went to a specialized organization and calculated it with satellite positioning. But in Chen Zhao's current state, Fan Xian's rock wasn't any slower than Chen Zhao. Fan Xian was also heavily injured. Of course, the rock was extremely fast, but it still couldn't shake Chen Zhao off. 2 beams of golden light streaked across the sky. Neither had any intention of stopping. Chen Zhao hadn't killed Fan Xian before, but he didn't plan on letting him go. As they chased, the two actually crossed the Pacific Ocean. Fan Xian grew more and more anxious. He hadn't expected that his painstakingly calculated plan would allow him to turn into flame wings and escape. Unexpectedly, Chen Zhao's speed was also shockingly fast. It wasn't any slower than flame wings. Fan Xian's condition was already very bad. He couldn't afford to waste time. So, if he couldn't shake Chen Zhao off in a short time, then he would really be dead. 2 beams of golden light streaked across the American continent and entered the Arctic Ocean. Then they flew past Greenland and entered the Atlantic Ocean. Just like that, the two chased endlessly. 1 lap, 2 laps, 3 laps. The two flew around the Earth a few times. They continued to chase at high speed. Chen Zhao also wanted to see how long Fan Xian could last. Chen Zhao's condition was very good. His origin form didn't burden him at all. He could easily maintain this state for 3 days and 3 nights. But what about Fan Xian? How long could he last? They flew for 2 hours. Finally, Fan Xian slowed down. Chen Zhao realized that Fan Xian's rock had decreased in altitude. They had already returned to Huaxia and were in the vicinity of Shanghai. What did Fan Xian want to do? If he wanted to use ordinary people to protect him, he should have landed in the city. Chen Zhao would definitely be wary. Why did he have to land in the suburbs? Just as Chen Zhao was hesitating, a golden net suddenly appeared in the sky. It appeared without warning and fell without warning. The golden net instantly enveloped Chen Zhao. This golden net was constructed from supreme Buddhist energy and a great divine ability. Chen Zhao gathered power for a second and suddenly tore. The golden net was torn instantly. But at that moment, a beam of blue light shot toward Chen Zhao. The blue light was extremely fast. Chen Zhao could only vaguely see that it was a rock. Boom! It seemed very similar to the golden rock that Fan Xian had transformed into. But the blue rock wasn't real. It exploded the moment it hit Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao flipped a few times in the air. It was very powerful, but it didn't hurt him. Chen Zhao hovered in the air. Looking down, he saw 30 monks appear below him. 24 of them formed a circle, each with a different posture. 6 old monks stood in the middle. One of them was supporting Fan Xian. "Junior, are you okay? That person is extremely powerful. Be careful. Activate the 24 heavens formation immediately," Fan Xian said worriedly. All the monks of the Brahmin generation were shocked. This was the first time they had seen Fan Xian in such a difficult situation. And he was in such a panic. Had his calming heart technique been broken? The monks looked up at Chen Zhao in the sky. "Is he the one who hurt Junior Fan Gu?" "Yes." Fan Xian nodded with a serious expression. "That's why I called for your help in a moment of desperation. Looks like he's really fierce. Disciples, hurry and activate the 24 heavens formation." Chen Zhao immediately realized that his surroundings were twisting. Huh! This feeling was very similar to when a god activated a divine kingdom. Chen Zhao didn't stop the monks from activating the formation. He didn't know the exact situation. The best choice was to deal with the myriad of changes by remaining unchanged. Just then, Chen Zhao realized that this wasn't a divine kingdom. It was a world, an entire world. Blessing of the heavens! Mercy of all things! In this world, the power of the world surged into Fan Xian's body. Fan Xian's injuries started recovering quickly. Chapter 3261. At the same time, Chen Zhao felt the pressure from this world. Chen Zhao opened his eyes. The power of his origin form increased again, shaking off the pressure. This world was very similar to the feathered serpent god's world. It was even more thorough. This world had been completely refined by these monks. No, it should be left behind by the ancient Buddhists. 6 Brahmin monks surrounded Fan Xian. "Junior, we're facing a great enemy. We can only borrow the power of the 24 heavens formation. Fan Xian understands." "Thank you, senior brothers." Fan Xian nodded. At the same time, he turned his head slightly to look at Chen Zhao in the air. No matter what, Chen Zhao was a huge problem. Fan Xian put his palms together. "Senior brothers, please." Amitabha. Flames of different colors burst out from the bodies of the 6 Brahmin monks. Chen Zhao looked at the 6 monks in surprise. The blue flames on one of them were the same as the one that had attacked him earlier. The other 5 were red, purple, black, white, and green. The flames on the 6 monks started entering Fan Xian's body. At the same time, the flames on their bodies transformed into the shape of a rock. Chen Zhao understood. Each of them had a part of the rock's soul in them. At the moment, they had all fused the remnant soul into Fan Xian's body. Clearly, Fan Xian also had a remnant soul. The remnant soul in his body should be the main one. After understanding the situation, Chen Zhao flew higher. Noticing Chen Zhao's actions, Fan Xian immediately said, "Stop him! Junior, calm down. We know what to do. You just need to calm down and focus on refining the flame-wing soul." Chen Zhao had already discovered something. The monks wanted to borrow the power of the world to fuse with the rock's soul. Chen Zhao didn't know why the rock would split its soul into 7. However, it should be normal for one to be split into 7, and it should be abnormal for it to be combined into 1. If he stopped them from merging, the monks would definitely control the power of the world to disturb him. So, Chen Zhao decided to do the opposite. Chen Zhao rose into the sky and quickly absorbed the surrounding air and spiritual qi. A huge golden neutron star formed in the sky. In his origin form, Chen Zhao reached the extreme in all aspects. He could even form a neutron star with a few billion tons with a single thought. Then the second, the third, the fourth. Chen Zhao created dozens of golden neutron stars. The moment Chen Zhao's arm fell, Dozens of golden neutron stars streaked across the sky. The 24 monks that formed the formation were shocked. They hurriedly controlled the power of the world to stop the falling golden neutron stars. Each of the dozens of golden neutron stars contained destructive power. After all, the 24 monks were not the true controllers of the world. They had only temporarily gained the authority to control the power of the world through the formation. Moreover, the 24 monks were unable to communicate with each other. Furthermore, even if they worked together, and their minds were connected, it would be extremely difficult to stop all the golden neutron stars. One must know that there were dozens of them, not just a few. If they were facing only one person, they would have to work together. It was still possible to stop a neutron star. But how were they going to stop dozens of them? They had not discussed who would stop who. The power of the world was indeed enormous for an individual, but this was only a small world after all. Dividing it into 24 portions was still a bit of a stretch. Giant rock palms rose from all corners of the small world in an attempt to stop the golden neutron star. However, the first golden neutron star passed through and landed on the ground. The entire world shook. Then the second, the third. At this moment, the largest neutron star fell. While the 24 monks were focused on stopping the first wave of attacks from Qin Zhao was also preparing his real killing move. Qin Zhao turned into a giant meteor and smashed into the ground with terrifying speed. Boom! The sky changed colors and the mountains and rivers collapsed. The land was shattered in the impact. The entire world was shaking. The power of the world became very unstable. The 24 monks spat out blood at the same time. Uncle, that person, Fan Xian and the other monks of the Fan generation were also shocked. They did not expect Qin Zhao to be so crazy, nor did they expect him to be able to do this. They had thought that they only needed to trap Qin Zhao in the 24 heavens formation. Then, they could use the power of the world to suppress Qin Zhao. No matter how strong Qin Zhao was, he wouldn't be able to fight against the power of the world. They did not expect Qin Zhao to be able to do it, and do it. Compared to destroying the world, shouldn't it be easier to stop them from merging with the soul of the rock? But Qin Zhao did not follow their wishes. He did the exact opposite and chose to destroy the world, which seemed more difficult. To shake the foundation of the world instead of stopping them. He was a complete lunatic. Perhaps in their understanding, Qin Zhao was crazy. In reality, this was all because of the uniqueness of Qin Zhao's move. If it was just to stop Fan Xian from merging with the soul of the rock, he needed to fight against the power of the world. What was the power of the world? It was a giant world. It was almost impossible to break through such a huge small world in a short period of time. Even if Qin Zhao used all his ultimate moves, he would not be able to break through in a short time. But Qin Zhao's move could. Meteor was Qin Zhao's killing move. This move was used to destroy the world. It was a move that Qin Zhao's employees had thought of for him. But it had become Qin Zhao's most powerful killing move. Meteors were not suitable for smashing people. They were completely used to destroy the world. If he used this on Earth one day, Qin Zhao would be able to use it. If the world was destroyed, the employees of the animation company would definitely play a huge role. So, to Qin Zhao, destroying the world was far easier than breaking through the limits of the power of the world. Quick, change to another world! An old monk shouted anxiously. If Qin Zhao continued to destroy, the world would really be destroyed. Once the world was destroyed, the 24 heavens formation would be flawed. Plus, Fan Xian's fusion had reached a critical moment. The entire world was shaking. It was extremely difficult to use the power of the world to suppress the soul of the rock. It might even backfire on Fan Xian. They would not allow this to happen. Qin Zhao was surprised, because the surrounding scenery changed again. A whole new world appeared before him. No way. Was Wutai Mountain so extravagant? There was actually a second small world. Wait. This formation was called the 24 Heavens Formation. Did it really have 24 small worlds? Chapter 3262. Even Qin Zhao couldn't destroy 24 worlds in a row. It wasn't hard to smash a meteor into the ground. It wasn't hard to smash 10 or even 100, as long as Qin Zhao had enough time. Qin Zhao could create a meteor shower. But even a meteor shower couldn't shake the power of the world. In order to shake the power of the world, Qin Zhao had to use his full strength. 24 small worlds. Qin Zhao would be exhausted. The second world was a vast ocean, an ocean that had no end in sight. At the same time, Fan Xian's rock soul had finished merging. With the suppression of the complete power of the world, the rock soul couldn't resist. Fan Xian could control the rock's power freely. Fan Xian turned into the rock again. The air seemed to be torn apart. Qin Zhao couldn't see the rock's movements clearly. His body was knocked thousands of feet away. He landed on the surface of the ocean, creating huge waves. Qin Zhao stood on the surface, calmly looking at the rock Fan Xian had turned into. It was very fast. It was definitely the fastest enemy Qin Zhao had ever faced. Even Qin Zhao couldn't match its speed. But he didn't use much strength. Qin Zhao tore off his tattered clothes. The rock attacked Qin Zhao again. Qin Zhao raised his arms. Hundreds of water columns rose from the surface of the ocean and shot at the rock. But the rock easily dodged the water columns with his fast and agile body. The rock grabbed Qin Zhao's shoulder and lifted him up. Qin Zhao's body flipped uncontrollably into the air. The moment Qin Zhao steadied himself, the rock attacked again. Not just once, but hundreds of times in an instant. Qin Zhao hadn't been attacked like this in a long time. He couldn't fight back and was beaten up. The rock's speed was simply too fast. So fast that it was hard to react. Qin Zhao was covered in wounds. He recovered in a moment. The rock didn't attack immediately. Instead, he looked at Qin Zhao. You lost. The golden light on his body turned red. The next moment, the rock attacked again. It was also an unparalleled speed. But it was different from last time. This time, the attack hit Qin Zhao directly. Boom! A terrifying shockwave exploded at the moment of impact. Qin Zhao's body flew across the surface of the ocean. The surface was almost torn open. Qin Zhao stood up again, a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. Qin Zhao was injured. This time, he was really injured. The rock attacked again. Just then, Qin Zhao moved too. In an instant, the sea disappeared. In its place was lava everywhere. A world of flames. Qin Zhao released his inner world. The rock didn't stop. Instead, it continued charging at Qin Zhao. The fiery world seemed to have been sliced apart by the rock. That speed was truly unparalleled. But the next moment, the boundary of the fire world shrank even faster with Qin Zhao as the center. The moment the rock was about to hit Qin Zhao, the world of fire disappeared completely. Qin Zhao's original form disappeared. It was replaced by a lava-like form. Qin Zhao suddenly dropped down. The rock missed its attack and flew over his head. However, the rock quickly turned back and chased after Qin Zhao. Just as the rock was about to catch up to Qin Zhao suddenly paused. The inner world of fire appeared again. It completely enveloped the rock, enveloping it in a world of flames. The rock couldn't change its direction in time. It crashed into Qin Zhao's chest. Qin Zhao fell to the ground like a meteor. But this time, Qin Zhao stood up as if nothing had happened. Qin Zhao looked at the rock. You lost. I'm not afraid of flames, Fan Xian said in the form of the rock. I never hoped that the flames here could restrict you. What? Fan Xian's heart jumped. Suddenly, the flames on his body became chaotic. Gold, red, blue, white, black, purple, and green flames fluctuated continuously. World within a world! Fan Xian understood what Qin Zhao had done. Qin Zhao had used his own small world to trap him. Then Qin Zhao didn't need to do anything. He'd already fallen into the trap. Without the power of the outside world suppressing him, the soul of the rock was indeed uncontrollable. It started wreaking havoc in Fan Xian's body. No! The first thing to break out was a beam of red light. It was the remnant soul of the rock that represented the soul of flames. It was strengthened in this world of flames. Thus, its reaction was also the most intense. The red rock soul circled the world but had nowhere to go. Qin Zhao waved his hand. Come! The soul of the rock seemed to be summoned by Qin Zhao. It flew before Qin Zhao on its own. It fused into Qin Zhao's body without resistance. Qin Zhao took a deep breath. At the same time, he felt the memories that the soul had given him. There were 7 rock souls in total. Each was actually an individual. They'd hatched in different eras. They were not real rocks, but descendants of rocks. Every rock soul had a special characteristic. The monks of Wutai Mountain had been preparing since ancient times. They domesticated and fed the hatched rocks so that they could evolve. When they reached a bottleneck, they'd kill them, extract their souls, and seal them in the monk's body with a secret technique. This way, they could obtain the abilities of the rock. One had to admit that this was a very strange idea. Until now, the 7th rock was born. It was different from the other rocks. It was completely sealed in Fan Xian's body. Both its soul and body were sealed in Fan Xian's body. The original plan was to wait until the rock reached a bottleneck. Then, with the power of the world, it would absorb the souls of the other 6 rocks. Finally, it would break through and turn the 7th rock into a real, legendary rock. But this plan had been disrupted by Qin Zhao. Because of Qin Zhao, Fan Xian had to let the other 6 rock souls fuse into her body in advance. But the rock in Fan Xian's body hadn't truly reached a bottleneck. So, it couldn't fuse with the souls of the other 6. It could only suppress them with the power of the world, which was to forcefully fuse them. With the help of the world's energy, the other 6 rock souls could be considered to be at peace. But without the suppression of the power of the world, the other 6 rocks immediately rebelled. Soon, the 2nd rock soul rushed out of Fan Xian's body. Fan Xian's heart-wrenching roars couldn't stop the rock soul's resistance. Qin Zhao didn't hold back. He directly attracted the 2nd rock soul. Qin Zhao realized that the rock soul didn't resist him. The first one was very active. The second one only fused into his body after he released his aura. Chapter 3263. They could not only be suppressed by the power of the world. They also fed on the power of the world. Qin Zhao vaguely understood why there hadn't been any rocks in history. Perhaps it could only appear in the mythological era. Because their food had never been flood dragons. It was the power of the world. They liked to eat the power of the world, but that did not mean they wanted to be suppressed by the power of the world. Therefore, the plans of the monks on Mount Wutai for thousands of years had always been wrong. There was no conflict between the 2 rock souls in Qin Zhao's body. They were not energy, they all had their own consciousness. Qin Zhao didn't have much, but he had a lot of world power. Qin Zhao's inner world was a small world. It also produced world power. He also had the serpent world, which also had endless world power. Therefore, he didn't need to be stingy with the power of the world. They ate as much as they could. It was enough for them to fill themselves to death. Moreover, it was different from Brahma Xian, who relied on suppression to obtain the power of the great rock. Qin Zhao didn't need to force them. All he had to do was exchange the power of the world and feed them. They would naturally be willing to lend their power to Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao opened his arms and released the aura of the rock soul. The rock soul in Fan Xian's body became even more restless, and resisted even more fiercely. Fan Xian didn't feel relieved because the number of the rock souls was reduced. Instead, she felt even more uncomfortable. The soul of the rock rampaged through Fan Xian's body. Fan Xian became more and more alarmed. He didn't understand. This was Mount Wutai's secret method. Why could Qin Zhao control it? He didn't realize that the secret method of Mount Wutai was used in the wrong way. Qin Zhao only had 2 rock souls, but their auras were stronger than the 5 he had. Furthermore, he had even triggered the golden rock in his body. At that moment, the soul of the 3rd rock broke through Brahma's suppression and charged directly at Qin Zhao. The soul of the rock chirped happily and dove into Qin Zhao's body. On Qin Zhao's side, the aura of the rock's soul grew stronger. This feeling was similar to an animal releasing male hormones to attract other members of the opposite sex. Although this description was very strange. But the process was very similar. However, the number of rock souls in Fan Xian's body didn't make it any easier to suppress. Instead, it became even more intense, as if it wanted to perish together with Fan Xian. "That's enough!" Fan Xian roared. The rock's soul was calm for a moment, but in the next moment, Fan Xian fell to the ground in pain. Backlash! It had begun. Even the golden rock's flaming wings began to resist. To Brahma Xian, this was a disaster. The 3 rock souls broke through the shackles and entered Qin Zhao's body. At this moment, Fan Xian didn't have the slightest strength to resist, and she collapsed to the ground. His eyes lost their light. Qin Zhao walked toward Fan Xian and stretched out his hand. A strong aura of the rock soul was brewing in his palm. Fan Xian's body suddenly spasmed. Immediately after, the golden Buddha mark on his chest began to become extremely dazzling. In the next moment, the light disappeared, but the golden Buddha seal began to bleed. A golden rock tore through Fan Xian's body and flew out. It was different from the previous 6 rocks. The great rock in front of him was not killed. Its body was still intact. Qin Zhao slowly reached out to touch the golden rock. The golden rock retreated a little. But slowly it sensed the aura of its kind on Qin Zhao. Moreover, the power of the world on Qin Zhao made it instinctively feel close. The golden rock suddenly turned into a beam of golden light and imprinted itself on Qin Zhao's palm. It left a golden mark on Qin Zhao's palm. It was different from the other 6 rock souls. This golden rock could evolve into a real mythical rock. Qin Zhao looked down at Fan Xian. He was already dead. Buddhism was all about mercy. However, the actions of this group of monks had nothing to do with mercy. Qin Zhao was somewhat disgusted. With a wave of his hand, he completely destroyed Fan Xian's body. Putting away his inner world, the 6 rocks and the golden rock immediately settled down in the flame world. They didn't have any special requirements for the environment. They just had a special need for food. They only needed the power of the world. This wasn't something normal people could provide. The monks saw Qin Zhao appear, but Fan Xian didn't. They all felt that something was wrong. "Quick, change the world! The power of the rock!" A beam of light flashed. A dozen monks were instantly crushed by Qin Zhao. The remaining monks also spat out blood. The 24 heavens formation also disintegrated. They couldn't change the world anymore. At least, they couldn't activate the formation until they had 24 monks who knew formations. But now, they had to face Qin Zhao. "Monk Fan Xian asked me to pass on a message." All the monks looked at Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao smiled. "He said he misses you guys and hopes you can accompany him." All the monks were infuriated. "Demon, I'll fight you to the death. Fellow martial brothers and martial nephews, let's vanquish the demon together. Kill!" But they were facing Qin Zhao. The gap between them was vividly displayed at this moment. In the next second, all the monks were destroyed. They were facing Qin Zhao, who was ready to kill. Qin Zhao didn't hold back anymore. He wouldn't give them a chance to resist. Returning to the main plane, Qin Zhao exhaled deeply. Just then, his phone rang. "Hey, Mr. Qin, I reported your request to the higher-ups. They don't agree." On the other end of the phone, Zhou Yuren sounded a little regretful. He didn't know if it was because he hadn't taken the chance to destroy Wutai Mountain. Or was it because he wasn't able to receive the $10 billion donation? "Really? I think so too. I was too impulsive. It's a famous mountain in China. I should show some respect." It's good that you think like that. Oh, where's Monk Fan Xian? He went to serve the Buddha, right? Fine. Even an idiot could understand what Qin Zhao meant. But Zhou Yuren was also secretly shocked. Who was Fan Xian? It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was the top Zen. Just like Zhang Tiany's position in Taoism. No one objected to Fan Xian being the top Zen. But now, Qin Zhao had sent him to meet the Buddha. How could Zhou Yuan not be shocked? If there's nothing else, I'm going to hang up. Okay, bye. I look forward to the communication between the East China Special Intelligence Department and the North American Supernatural Organization. Bye. As soon as Qin Zhao hung up, his phone rang again. This time, it was the hotel. Qin Zhao's room had been destroyed, but he was nowhere to be seen. So, the hotel thought that something had happened to him. They even called the police. Chapter 3264. Qin Zhao was at the police station now. An old acquaintance of his sat opposite him, rolling. She was the policewoman he met when he'd returned last time. Hello, Xiao Luo. Who's talking to you? I'm asking you a question. Didn't you hear me? I heard you. I don't know what happened either. A group of strangers barged into my room and put a sack over my head. I don't know what happened next. When I woke up, I was in the wilderness. There was no one around. The surveillance shows that there wasn't a group of people at all. During the incident, only a long-haired man entered your room. Then you and the long-haired man disappeared together. That's my friend. I'm worried about him too, Qin Zhao said helplessly. You don't look worried at all. Do you really have to write worried on your face? Correct your thoughts. You're a suspect now. No, I'm a victim. Qin Zhao immediately corrected, rolling. You can't interrogate me with this attitude. I'm only here to give a statement, not to record it. Rowling felt like she couldn't control her little universe anymore. Qin Zhao was asking for a beating, but she knew that she couldn't do anything to him. Unless she could find concrete evidence. Qin Zhao was related to the man's disappearance. However, there was no footage of the man on the surveillance. When the man came to find Qin Zhao, he seemed to have purposely avoided the camera. Why did you come back? That's weird. I'm a legal Chinese citizen. Do I need a valid reason to come back? Besides, I entered the scene legally. You should be able to find out about this. If you really need a legitimate reason, I can ask my company to issue a proof of official business. Rowling was speechless. She hated facing intellectuals the most. Because most of the time, people like Qin Zhao were rebellious. Just then, Qin Zhao's lawyer arrived. This lawyer was also an old acquaintance of Qin Zhao's in China. He'd bailed Qin Zhao out last time too. He was a lawyer from Shanghai, Wei Ling. Mr. Qin, hello. Ms. Luo, we meet again. Lawyer Wei, you're a bit early. I'm catching up with Ms. Luo. Ahaha. I'm sorry, but you can catch up after I'm done with the paperwork. Wei Dan was a smart person and knew how to continue. Ms. Luo, can I take Mr. Qin away now? Rowling glanced at Qin Zhao unwillingly. Go. Don't come back. If you do, I'll definitely make you suffer. Qin Zhao was speechless. He left the police station and got into Wei Dan's car. Lawyer Wei, do you take on commercial law cases? Huh? Wei Dan was stunned. Mr. Qin, do you need legal advice for your business? Yes. Recently, I have a business deal with Director Liu of Tiahong Corporation. We have reached a general agreement, but we haven't signed the contract yet. Some of the details, contracts, and things related to domestic laws need to be handled by a professional lawyer. My own lawyer is overseas and isn't suitable for this project. That's why I asked Lawyer Wei if he has this kind of business, or if I can find a lawyer in Lawyer Wei's firm to handle business. Of course, if Mr. Qin has such a request, I would be honored. All right then, I'll entrust this matter to Lawyer Wei. Wei Ke also had a law firm of her own. He worked with Alex's law firm. That was why Wei Ke had appeared when Qin Zhao went in last time. Wei Ke knew that Qin Zhao was rich. He was happy to work with Qin Zhao. Oh, is there any trouble with my case this time? No problem. Wei Ke didn't ask why a living person would disappear in Qin Zhao's room. Are you sure? Regardless of whether it's international or domestic laws, they all have a common characteristic, which is that they can only prove guilty and not innocent. What do you mean? It's like issuing a certificate. Domestic police stations won't issue a certificate of innocence to anyone, even if the person has never committed a crime in his life. It's because innocence can't be determined from cause and effect, but guilt is obvious. If you've been caught, it proves that you've committed a crime. If the police want to prove Mr. Chen's guilt, they have to prove that the person's disappearance is related to Mr. Chen. Chen Zhao understood now. This meant that if they couldn't find the cause and effect, then they couldn't prove Chen Zhao's guilt. The police couldn't make guesses about this case. So they couldn't prove the cause and effect. This couldn't prove Chen Zhao's innocence. It just couldn't prove that he was guilty. Thank you for your answer, Lawyer Wei. You're welcome. Answering clients is also my job scope. Oh, Lawyer Wei, if you know someone's guilty, especially when it's an extremely bad crime, will you still defend that person with all your strength? Yes. Wei Ke nodded. Chen Zhao fell silent. He just asked casually. But he soon realized that he couldn't continue. Mr. Chen, under the modern law, both the plaintiff and the defendant need a chance to prove their innocence. The principle of modern law is that it's better to let go of 1,000 wrongly than to kill one wrongly. Also, don't question the authority of the domestic legal system. If it's really done by a person, the suspect can't escape punishment in most cases. What if the person is rich? I mean, someone as rich as me? Mr. Chen, why do you think so many people who commit economic crimes flee abroad every year? Wei Dan was a very logical person. Even when Chen Zhao asked some sensitive questions, Wei Dan could still answer them fluently. Moreover, his answers wouldn't make Chen Zhao uncomfortable. What made Chen Zhao feel that Wei Ke was reliable wasn't his legal knowledge. It was his principles. He was a person with his own principles. This made Chen Zhao feel that Wei Ke was someone he could work with. If his lawyer was someone without principles, Chen Zhao wouldn't be at ease. For example, Alex. Chen Zhao chose Alex to be his personal lawyer. It wasn't just because she was Green's sister. It was also because of her principles. Every year, Alex would accept many legal requests. Wei Ke sent Chen Zhao to the hotel entrance. Louis Ba also got out of the car. He'd come to find Chen Zhao and coincidentally met him at the entrance. President Chen, you're finally back? I heard that you were attacked at the hotel. How is it? Are you okay? Chapter 3265. Smiling, Chen Zhao shook his head. It's fine. Maybe it's just a prank. It's good that you're fine. It's good that you're fine. Boss, you're a boss, but you didn't bring a bodyguard. Aren't you being hated? Louis Bo said with concern. His words were somewhat polite. Of course, he was genuinely concerned. Most importantly, if something happened to Chen Zhao, who could he ask for his investment? This was not just a few dollars, but billions of dollars of investment. Even the world's largest venture capital firms would take half a year to come up with an evaluation. There were many rich people in the country, but there weren't many who could come up with so much money in such a short period of time. There were even fewer who were willing to take it out and vote for him. Do you want me to introduce you to a few companies that specialize in this kind of security business? Absolutely professional. Thanks, but I really don't need it. Chen Zhao waved his hand. If he really needed help, he would look for Mo Han. You really don't need it? There's really no need, Chen Zhao said, smiling. All right, if you have something to say, just say it. I don't dare to say that I can command hundreds of people in the country, but basically, as long as it doesn't involve the government, I can say something. Of course, if there is a need, I will not stand on ceremony with you, Boss Lu. Let's go, I'll welcome you. Chen Zhao did not refuse. This time, Louis Bo was treating because of what happened last time. It was because of the animations company. Although it was a misunderstanding, it was not Louis Bo's intention. However, Louis Bo still needed to use this opportunity to explain. Jean Si gave Louis Bo a way out. For a businessman like Louis Bo, he was most afraid that his business partner would hold a grudge against him. This was one of his business habits. If Chen Zhao really had to hold on to this, Louis Ba might really consider giving up on Chen Zhao. After that, Louis Ba introduced the animation company to an office building in Shanghai's CBD. Moreover, he wasn't introducing the office building of Tianhong Corporation this time. A businessman like him was straightforward. Chen Zhao was willing to trust his sincerity. After returning to the hotel staff gave him another room. For the hotel, they didn't know what happened. But they felt it was their fault. After all, with Chen Zhao's identity, it was their fault. Although they didn't know what was going on. But the guest was missing in the hotel. That could only be their fault. Mr. Chen, do you have time today? Yes, when and where? Eastern Zhejiang. You'd better be there before midnight. Eastern suburbs? Where? Forget it, I'll go pick you up. Zhou Yiren was impatient too. He went straight to Chen Zhao's hotel and dragged him to the eastern suburbs. In the car, Zhou Yiren couldn't help but ask. Mr. Chen, where is Fan Xian? What monk Fan Xian? Zhou Yiren was speechless. Are you pretending to have amnesia? However, he did not ask this question to seek justice for Fan Xian in the first place. Since Chen Zhao was pretending to have lost his memory, Fan Xian was probably dead. The pillar of Mount Wutai is also missing, Zhou Yiren said. I'm not interested in a bunch of monks, Chen Zhao said nonchalantly. All right. Zhou Yiren decided to change the topic. Chen Zhao clearly didn't want to talk about the monks from Wutai Mountain anymore. He was probably afraid that there would be trouble in the future. This matter couldn't be hidden even if he mentioned it. After all, Mount Wutai was not a small sect. Fan Xian and the 20 or so pillars had all disappeared in one go. The remaining monks on Mount Wutai would definitely not sit still. Even the entire Zen sect would explode. When they arrived at the eastern suburbs, there were many members of the Special Intelligence Division. They were busy setting up the formation. Xiao Jiaqio was also watching from the side. When she saw Chen Zhao and Zhou Yiren, she immediately came over to greet them. Mr. Chen, Minister Zhou. Chen Zhao nodded, his attitude rather cold. On the other hand, Zhou Yiren and Xiao Jiaqio started chatting. But they were not the same kind of people. So, their topics were also very different. Speaking of which, Xiao Jiaqio could be considered someone from the supernatural world now. But in the end, she was more used to her celebrity identity. She had only agreed to help Zhou Yiren to solve her own problems. Xiao Jiaqio was a very realistic person. The benefits were clearly divided. Was she obedient before Chen Zhao now? It was only because she needed his help. Chen Zhao had only agreed to help because of Zhou Yiren. Chen Zhao was more interested in the members of the Special Intelligence Division. Chen Zhao observed the events at the scene. He discovered the difference between the Special Intelligence Division and the Supernatural Organization. The members of the Special Intelligence Division weren't weak. A few were especially outstanding and might even be stronger than Gaia and the others. Also, their execution was something the Supernatural Organization members couldn't compare to. Perhaps it was because Chen Zhao was an undisciplined person himself. West himself wasn't a hardliner, was he? Managing the Supernatural Organization was also a free-range management. So, the Supernatural Organization members didn't have much discipline. Apart from Chen Zhao's words. Plus, with Chen Zhao's strength, there weren't any problems. In terms of execution? There were too many members of the Special Intelligence Division. They weren't soldiers. But their management system was very much like the army. Once an order was given, it had to be completed. It wasn't like the ambiguity of the Supernatural Organization. Even if they failed, Chen Zhao would cover for them. Plus, they had a clear division of labor and a wide range of knowledge in the supernatural world. Almost every member of the Special Intelligence Division knew how to look at the diagram when setting up the complicated formation. It wasn't like the Supernatural Organization. Outstanding in a certain aspect, but mediocre in other aspects. Was there a single advantage? Erudite had its advantages too. But in a group battle, if the two sides were about the same in power, Erudite would definitely have a greater advantage. For example, Erudite? The most representative was Zhang Tianyi. Baifla was second. They were people who could turn their magic knowledge into power. Qin Zhao thought about the communication between the two organizations that he'd mentioned to Zhou Yiren. It seemed like he had to be serious. Was it just a formality? Now it seemed? The Special Intelligence Division's level was indeed much higher than the supernatural organizations. This level wasn't just reflected on individuals. It was also reflected on the whole. They could make the dozen people present into one. Each person could set up a part of the formation without interfering with each other. The supernatural organization was like that. If two people fought together, they could cooperate well. If there were more than two people, they would probably start fighting among themselves first. So, when fighting, it was basically two people working together. Sometimes, they would even fight alone. As for management, Chen Zhao and West weren't qualified managers. Even if they learned the management of the Special Intelligence Division, they probably wouldn't be able to learn it. Even if they did, they wouldn't be able to implement it. Chapter 3266. After dark, the site was still being set up. It wasn't until the wee hours of the morning that the preparations for the formation were finally completed. This was not a pure array formation. There were also some unknown instruments and equipment set up in the surroundings. Okay, we just have to wait until midnight to officially start. Why do we have to wait until midnight? Chen Zhao asked. For that snake demon to evolve into a flood dragon, it needs the right time, the right place, and the right people. Not a single one can be missing. The right time refers to the time, the right place refers to the environment and array formation here, and the right people refers to you. Tomorrow is the opening day, where yin and yang meet. What Genesis Day? I've never heard of it. It's like the 24 solar terms. In the spiritual world, there are also spiritual chi solar terms. Some seasons have more yang and less yin, while others have more yin and less yang. Genesis Day is the first day of the spiritual chi solar terms. It's like the first day of the new year after New Year's Eve. Genesis Day is the first day when spiritual chi turns from more yin and less yang to more yang and less yin. It's the first day when yin and yang are reversed. Tell me more about the spiritual chi solar terms. After Genesis Day is bright yang at the beginning of April. At that time, yang qi reaches a high level. June is full yang, and June is the month when yang qi is the most abundant. It lasts until July 15th. Other than the Ghost Festival, it's also called yin opening in the spiritual world. From then on, yin qi will gradually increase. Mid-autumn will be perineum yin, and November 5th will be full yin. Zhou Yiren paused and said, Primordial opening, bright yang, full yang, opening yin, perineum yin, and full yin are the 6 solar terms of the spiritual energy solar terms. Nowadays, few cultivators know about these solar terms. However, in ancient times, some cultivators would cultivate or make breakthroughs according to the spiritual energy solar terms, which would indeed be helpful to their cultivation and realms. For example, primordial opening and yin opening, where the extreme of yang produces yin, or when the extreme of yin produces yang, are important turning points for breakthroughs and enlightenment. Another example is that if one's cultivation is of the yang attribute or yin attribute, one can also allocate the cultivation time according to the spiritual energy solar terms. Although Qin Zhao's cultivation leaned towards yang, he had never paid attention to things like the spiritual chi solar terms. Now that he heard Zhou Yiren's words, he felt enlightened. Although he wouldn't be able to break through immediately after listening to it, he could try his best to cultivate in accordance with the solar terms in the future. All right. Mr. Qin, go over there and try the device. See if the input of magical power is smooth. Qin Zhao nodded and walked to the device. There was a pair of palm prints on it. Place your hands on the palm print, and then use the smallest amount of mana output. Qin Zhao obeyed and began to pour out his mana. The moment Qin Zhao inserted his magic power, the formation lit up. Mr. Qin, you can increase your dermic power output. Qin Zhao increased the output and the formation grew brighter. The other personnel in charge of monitoring the equipment and formation made an OK gesture. The magic power attribute is positive. The array is operating normally and the power output is stable. Just follow this output frequency, the monitoring staff said. However, it needs to be maintained for at least an hour, possibly longer. Zhou Yuan looked at him. Mr. Chen, I need 1 or more than an hour. Do you have a problem? If you have any questions, it's best to bring them up now so that we can make backup plans. Sure, no problem. All right then. Zhou Yuan checked the time. 1 minute countdown. Xiao Jiaqio, stand in the eye of the formation and summon the snake demon. It's about to start. Xiao Jiaqio stood in the eye of the formation and summoned the two-legged snake. The two-legged snake couldn't be any more well-behaved here. Apart from Qin Zhao, there were many people here that it couldn't afford to offend. Even if it was Zhou Yuan, who looked so ordinary. He was also very strong. Xiao Jiaqio still didn't know the exact process. So, she seemed a bit nervous. Countdown, 10 seconds, 9, 8, countdown, 3, 2, 1. Start. Qin Zhao started to input his magic power. The formation lit up and Zhou Yuan commanded from the side. Snake Demon, activate your bloodline and begin evolution. The two-legged snake mumbled. I'm not a snake demon. Why do you keep calling me Snake Demon? However, it didn't dare to let others hear it. It just complained. The two-legged snake's scales started to change color from green. The color became darker and darker, as if it was congested with blood. It turned dark red and glowed faintly. Qin Zhao's magic power was channeled into the formation through the device and then into Xiao Jiaqio. It then flowed into the two-legged snake through Xiao Jiaqio. Xiao Jiaqio and the two-legged snake were connected by blood. So, they wouldn't reject each other's magic power. The two-legged snake straightened its body in front of it. However, the evolution process wasn't comfortable. It could even be described as extremely painful. Many magical beasts and demons died because they couldn't endure the evolution process. The two-legged snake knew the consequences, so it persisted. If it relaxed even a little, it would be smashed to pieces. It had to keep absorbing magic power to stimulate the bloodline in its body. Bloodline and constitution were two different things, but they complemented each other. Bloodlines forged a stronger physique, and a stronger physique gave birth to a stronger bloodline. It had been half an hour, but the two-legged snake was still the same. There weren't any obvious changes in its body. Zhou Yuan cursed silently. This guy's talent was really bad. No wonder it couldn't evolve when it was stuck on 2 legs. Mr. Chen, the evolution process might take longer this time. Do you have any problems? Not at the moment. Since Qin Zhao had agreed, he wouldn't leave halfway. The length of time didn't make much difference to him. Finally, after another half an hour, a tumor grew out of the two-legged snake's head. The tumor grew longer slowly. Then the outer layer of skin started aging and fading, revealing a single horn. It finally had some characteristics of a flood dragon. But just then, a patch of dark clouds appeared in the sky. Zhou Yuan's heart skipped a beat. What's going on? Didn't you check the weather? Why are there dark clouds all of a sudden? Qin Zhao looked at Zhou Yuan. What happened? Mr. Chen, if it rains, you can stop using magic power. What? If I stop now, the snake's evolution will definitely fail. With the amount of magic it absorbed, it and Xiao Jiaqio will definitely explode. I can't help it. If it rains later, there'll definitely be lightning. I know some lightning spells. I'm fine. Qin Zhao had experienced the thunder tribulation himself when he was breaking through to the ascension level. Even if the snake's evolution triggered lightning, it wouldn't be stronger than his own, so he wasn't worried. Mr. Chen, are you really fine? Chapter 3267. I'm fine, but are you sure they can handle the lightning? Lightning wasn't something that could only be triggered in certain realms. It also had a small chance of happening when breaking through to other realms. However, if there was a thunderstorm, it would happen very often. Today was also the day of the opening, when yin and yang alternated. Spiritual qi was already in an unstable state. If it was attracted by the serpent qi and encountered a thunderstorm again, there was almost a 100% chance that lightning would strike them. Qin Zhao didn't think that such low-level lightning could harm him. After all, he'd gone through 2 complete lightning strikes. However, whether Xiao Jiaqio and the two-legged snake, who had yet to fully evolve, could withstand the attack was up to fate. If they were lucky enough to win a 5 million lottery, it would be fine. On the other hand, that was about it. Mr. Chen, can you really handle it? Chen Zhao's cultivation was high, but it didn't mean that he could. One had to know that many experts had died while helping others take on the heavenly lightning. So, Zhou Yuan wasn't sure if Chen Zhao could handle it. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Then what if I attract the lightning to you? Is that okay? Chen Zhao hesitated. He could handle it, but it didn't mean that he had to take the blame for Xiao Jiaqio and the two-legged snake. He was here to help, not to take the blame. Mr. Chen, the Special Intelligence Division will take the blame for Wutai Mountain, Zhou Yuan said. Chen Zhao was surprised. Is the snake demon that important? Mr. Chen, do you agree? Yes. Zhou Yuan smiled. He'd recruited Xiao Jiaqio to expand their influence. After the two-legged snake evolved into a dragon, they'd gain a lot in terms of strength. At the same time, they'd be a brand. Together with Xiao Jiaqio, they'd have a good reaction. So, protecting the two was an important strategic deployment for the Special Intelligence Division. Of course, if they were worthy of the Special Intelligence Division taking the blame and going against Wutai Mountain, that wasn't worth it. But even without today's incident, he'd let the Special Intelligence Division take the blame. Because this was Dragon Tiger Mountain's intention. To put it simply, this time, the Celestial Master sect of Longhu Mountain wanted to take advantage of the fact that Wutai Mountain's combat power was weak. Then, he would use the Special Intelligence Department to weaken the influence of Mount Wutai. If the group of old monks from Mount Wutai were still here, Zhou Yuan would definitely not dare to accept this order from Mount Longhu's sage sect. But now, all the old monks on Mount Wutai were dead, and the remaining young monks were useless. Then, he spread the news that monks from Mount Wutai had come out to do bad things. Then they were annihilated by the Special Intelligence Department. What would happen to Mount Wutai and the Zen sect? Come out to seek justice from the Special Intelligence Department? The Zen sect would definitely be afraid of the Special Intelligence Division, which could completely destroy Mount Wutai. Besides, he was already dead, so the Zen sect naturally wouldn't stand up for Mount Wutai. As for the group of young monks from Mount Wutai, if they dared to come out, they would be killed. Of course, not everyone in the Special Intelligence Department was there to take the blame. The Special Intelligence Department's reputation would naturally rise because of this incident. After all, he could rub the head of the Zen sect against the ground. Naturally, no one dared to underestimate the combat power of the Special Intelligence Department. In the past, the Special Intelligence Division's position in Huaxia's supernatural world had been rather awkward. On one hand, it was because it was a department of the Imperial Court. Many people in the spirit world viewed them as the Imperial Court's lackeys. That was why there weren't many experts in the Special Intelligence Department. Most of them belonged to the middle class. They weren't as good as the top, but they were better than the bottom. Whenever they encountered a large sect, they had to admit defeat. For example, when the monks from Mount Wutai had come to cause trouble for Qin Zhao, they had to pretend to be blind and say that they hadn't seen anything. But now, things were different. The old monk was dead, so there was no need to worry about the young monk. Qin Zhao naturally didn't know the details. Did he really think that the Special Intelligence Department was willing to pay so much just to protect this person and snake? Mr. Qin, this is the lightning rod. Hold it in your hand. 10 minutes later, bean-sized raindrops started falling from the sky. This was also a sign of a heavy rain. Soon, the rain started pouring down. The rain grew heavier, and the wind grew stronger. In the wind and rain, the black clouds in the sky started surging with lightning. Qin Zhao continued to press the device with one hand, continuing to inject mana. With the other, he held the lightning rod high above his head. Boom! A pillar of light descended from the sky. A huge sound was accompanied by a huge impact. In the center of the formation, Xiao Jiaqio and the two-legged snake were frightened by this terrifying scene. They had never seen such terrifying lightning. Moreover, it didn't strike the ground, but a person's body. Fortunately, Chen Zhao was at least 50 meters away from them. Otherwise, they would have been affected by the lightning just now. But even so, under such a powerful sound and light, the impact produced was still shocking. Xiao Jiaqio's hair stood up. She kept shivering in the rain. The two-legged snake wasn't much better than her. It had been forced to do something beyond its ability. If it had known that there would be such a terrifying lightning tribulation, it wouldn't have agreed. It wouldn't have agreed even if it was beaten to death. But now, it couldn't do anything. It only had two choices now. Evolve successfully and become the dragon it dreamed of. Or die here. There was no third choice. The lightning disappeared. Chen Zhao stood where he was, unmoving. Even the device before him wasn't damaged. But the ground Chen Zhao was standing on was cracked like a spider web. Xiao Jiaqio and the two-legged snake stared at Chen Zhao, dumbfounded. It was like looking at a monster. Focus your mind and activate your bloodline, Chen Zhao said indifferently. If you fail, I'll stew you regardless of whether you're dead or alive. The two-legged snake's legs turned to jelly. It realized that Chen Zhao was the scariest. Just then, another bolt of lightning was brewing in the sky. Chen Zhao looked up. The white rock soul in his body was stirring. Chen Zhao called the various rocks in his body colors and added the word bird. For example, he called the white rock soul White Bird. Chen Zhao released White Bird at the same time. White Bird turned into white light and shot into the clouds. Coincidentally, the lightning fell and the two beams of white light collided. They didn't dissipate. Instead, White Bird absorbed the lightning and was still flying higher. Zhou Yiren was surprised. What was that? Because White Bird was too fast, he could only see a beam of white light rise from Chen Zhao's body. He thought it was some kind of spell. White Bird swam in the thunderclouds. The lightning didn't fall anymore. Everyone could only see white light swimming in the thunderclouds. The two-legged snake's transformation into a dragon was very slow. So, the thunderclouds didn't disperse for a long time. White Bird seemed to be absorbing the lightning in the thunderclouds to strengthen its spiritual body. But now, White Bird only had a spiritual body. It didn't have a body, so it couldn't become a real mythical rock. To become a mythical rock, one had to have a body and a bloodline. Just a soul wasn't enough. Chapter 3268. The two-legged snake used all its strength to transform into a flood dragon. Actually, even without Chen Zhao's threat, it had no way out. This was a formation that could only advance and not retreat. It did not seem like a natural evolution in the past. It was not a problem for him to be stuck in the middle of transforming into a flood dragon. The magic power that he was using to stimulate his bloodline was not his own. If he did not succeed, then the magic power would cause his body to explode. However, it was easier said than done to evolve into a flood dragon. What he lacked was not magic power. No matter how much magic power he used, the ultimate goal was to stimulate his bloodline. However, if one's bloodline wasn't enough, then it wasn't something that could be made up with magic power. If he could easily transform into a Jiao, he wouldn't have ended up as a half-baked Jiao back then. Nearly 3 hours had passed since he started transforming into a Jiao. Zhou Yiren watched from the side, shaking his head repeatedly. I almost gave up suspiciously. Sure enough, mud couldn't hold up a wall. Looks like I'll have to find another celebrity. Chen Zhao looked at the two-legged snake. Then, he looked at Xiao Jiaqio, who was in the center of the formation. At this moment, Xiao Jiaqio also seemed a little weak. A large amount of her blood essence was being absorbed by the two-legged snake. During the transformation process of the two-legged serpent, apart from absorbing magic power, it also absorbed qi and blood. But Chen Zhao only provided mana, not blood. It could only absorb Xiao Jiaqio's qi and blood. Of course, this was a passive process that neither side could control. According to Zhou Yiren's calculations, within 2 hours he would evolve as much as he could. It wouldn't affect Xiao Jiaqio at all. It wouldn't be a big deal to have a bit of blood she sucked away. At most, it would be a serious illness. They also had ways to replenish Xiao Jiaqio's lost qi and blood. But it had been more than 3 hours. The two-legged snake did not succeed, nor did it fail. The one who was most affected was, of course, Xiao Jiaqio, whose life force was constantly being sucked out. Finally, Xiao Jiaqio couldn't hold on any longer and fell to the ground. At this moment, White Bird had absorbed most of the heavenly lightning in the sky. It was also full. However, after the White Bird came out of the thundercloud, it didn't return to Qin Zhao's body. Instead, it charged towards Xiao Jiaqio in the eye of the formation. Qin Zhao frowned. He didn't know what White Bird wanted. The White Bird suddenly burrowed into Xiao Jiaqio's body. Xiao Jiaqio bounced up. His entire body was emitting a powerful electric current. Then, a powerful electric current rushed into the two-legged snake's body. The two-legged snake suddenly straightened up from its weakened state. The White Bird flew out of Xiao Jiaqio's body and circled above the array before returning to Qin Zhao's body. When Zhou Yiren was watching from the side, his eyes revealed a trace of surprise. "Minister, what is that?" "I don't know. It seems to be some kind of thunder." "What thunder?" "Never heard of it. Most of the lightning in this world is tribulation lightning that can exterminate all living beings. Only a small portion of it is the lightning divine ability of some living beings. This kind of divine ability contains the power of life and death. It can kill living beings, but it can also save lives. Because it cannot be cultivated, it can only be possessed by certain living beings, so it is rare in the world." Chen Zhao was far away from Zhou Yiren, but he heard what Zhou Yiren said. Qin Zhao immediately used White Bird's power to release another bolt of lightning at Xiao Jiaqio. Xiao Jiaqio's body twitched again, and she stood up again. Although he hadn't fully recovered, his aura was much more stable. The white lightning also flowed into the two-legged snake through Xiao Jiaqio's body. Finally, 2 sarcomas grew out from the two-legged snake's lower abdomen. It was like the horn that had grown out earlier. "Mr. Qin, increase your magical power output. Success or failure depends on this." Qin Zhao increased his magical power output. The entire formation became brighter. Xiao Jiaqio received a huge influx of magical power. Her entire body floated into the air. However, she couldn't control her body now. Floating was a completely passive reaction. The magical power flowed through her body and into the two-legged snake. The two-legged snake's huge body stood up. It seemed like it was going to climb into the sky. Of course, it didn't have that ability. Even a serpent couldn't fly. A serpent wasn't a real dragon, so it couldn't fly. Roar! The two-legged snake let out a dragon roar. A pair of serpent claws grew out from its abdomen. Sharp spikes also extended from its back. "It's done!" Zhou Yiren was relieved. The two-legged snake was no longer a snake demon. It was a serpent that everyone respected. Its strength was close to half a step into the Shangqing realm. Its body had also grown by half. It was originally 20 meters long, but now it was at least 30 meters long. A small world started forming around it. Qin Zhao was a bit surprised. The serpent was much stronger than he'd imagined. The serpent spat out an electric ball and shot it at Xiao Jiaqio. Xiao Jiaqio wasn't injured. Instead, she recovered in the electric ball. "Minister, that's also lightning?" "What lightning?" "That's the serpent's origin. Maybe it was affected by Mr. Qin, so it developed a second lightning element. It used its own lightning origin to recover Xiao Jiaqio's vitality. The two of them were originally connected. I thought that they could separate after the snake demon turned into a serpent, but they became even more entangled. Now that the snake demon has successfully turned into a serpent, I don't have to worry about Xiao Jiaqio's vitality being sucked away." The whole process took less than 10 seconds. Xiao Jiaqio had completely recovered. Not only was she not weak at all, but she was also full of energy. Miss Xiao, congratulations, Zhou Yuren said, walking over. You're welcome, Minister Zhou. Qin Zhao also walked to the center of the field. From now on, this serpent will be your spiritual beast. Keep it in check. Qin Zhao glanced at the serpent. That's rare. This serpent has both lightning and wood elements now. It's even rarer among serpents. It might be able to turn into a dragon in the future. Dragon? What are you thinking? With his level, it's already so difficult to turn into a serpent. He'll lose his life if he turns into a dragon. The serpent didn't dare to retort. It was the truth, but she shouldn't say it out loud. Mr. Qin, thank you. Xiao Jiaqio knew that without Qin Zhao's help, she would have died hundreds of times. No need to thank me. I didn't help because of you. No matter what, Mr. Qin saved my life. Qin Zhao didn't have a good impression of Xiao Jiaqio. He wouldn't change it just because of a few words. Don't make trouble for me in the future. That'll be the greatest gratitude. I wouldn't dare to make trouble again. Plus, I'm a civil servant now. Of course I'll obey the law. Right, Minister Zhou? Ha. It's good that you think that way. Xiao Jiaqio was now the representative of the Special Intelligence Department. Of course, he had to give her some face. Plus, with the serpent's help, no matter how rusty she was still a powerful fighter. He had to make good use of her. Anyway, he wouldn't let her go for no reason. Mr. Chen, Minister Zhou, it's all because of your help that I've been reborn. Can we have a meal together? It'll be my way of repaying you. Chapter 3269. In the end, Qin Zhao didn't attend the banquet. It was impossible for Xiao Jiaqio to not have any complaints about Qin Zhao. She wasn't a broad-minded woman to begin with. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call her narrow-minded. However, she knew very well. Qin Zhao could crush her in all aspects. So, she didn't reveal her thoughts at all. Minister Zhou, I want to know more about cultivators. Can you tell me? What do you want to know specifically? It's mainly about cultivation. Actually, Xiao Jiaqio had already learned a lot about the spiritual world from Lei Mu. Lei Mu was the name she'd given to the flood dragon. Because the flood dragon was lightning wood. So, she just called it this name. The flood dragon didn't object either. However, she didn't get much information from Lei Mu. She even had a lot of misconceptions. After all, Lei Mu wasn't human. And he'd been sealed for decades. He didn't know much about the spiritual world either. What useful information could he give Xiao Jiaqio? Regarding cultivation, our Special Intelligence Department has quite a few. What level can you reach? Now that Miss Xiao has a flood dragon as a spiritual pet, and you two are connected, you're blessed. It won't be hard for you to reach the level of a flood dragon. Then what level is my flood dragon Thunderwood in the spiritual world? Top level, Zhou Yuren said. Not just in the country, but in the entire world. Oh, Lei Mu is top level? But I think he's much weaker than Mr. Qin. You compare to Mr. Qin? Then there's no way. Since Lei Mu is top level, why can't we compare? The flood dragon is at the top, but Mr. Qin is at the top. There aren't many in the world who can compete with him, and he's also one of the best among the best. I don't think there are more than 3 who can match him, and none can defeat him. Then, how can Lei Mu surpass him? If you transform into a dragon, you can barely be considered one of the best. Then how? It's not that easy. If you cultivate for 500 years and don't die to heaven's test, you can transform. 500 years? Department Head Zhou must be joking with me. Of all the living beings in the world, apart from humans who can reach the pinnacle with a lifespan of 100 years, no matter how intelligent the other creatures are, it is difficult for them to reach the pinnacle within 100 years. But isn't a dragon a divine beast? Dragons are divine beasts, but they are somewhat different from what you think. There are 2 types of dragons. The divine beasts born from heaven and earth are born with the ability to penetrate the heavens and the earth. They can split into chi and travel between the mountains and rivers. They can also condense into a human form and are called divine dragons. Joiren paused again and said, There's another kind, like the true dragon evolved from your spiritual pet, the flood dragon. If it can transform into a dragon, it will naturally have extraordinary strength, but it's still 1,000 miles away from the divine dragon. It's already very commendable to be ranked at the top. If it wants to go one step further, it will require another 1,000 years of cultivation. In other words, the Thunderwood will never evolve again in my lifetime? There are no absolutes in this world, but it's not completely impossible. Now that the spiritual tide has arrived, there are many strange phenomena in the world, and there are many ancient treasures. If there's a chance, it's not impossible to transform into a dragon in one's lifetime. But the chances are slim. If it's so easy to reach the top, there won't only be a few in the world. Mr. Chen is probably not older than me, right? How did he cultivate? Everyone is different. Why don't you think about it? How can someone become Father Ma? And some people are still struggling to feed themselves. Everyone understood the logic, but Xiao Jiaqio was still unwilling to accept it. Miss Xiao, you should be more open-minded about some things. If one day, can you reach Mr. Chen's level? Even the national level might give you some face. And before that? You should recognize reality. Joiren was also an understanding person. Of course he could tell. Xiao Jiaqio had a lot of complaints about him. He didn't talk about right or wrong or grievances. Some rights and wrongs were determined based on strength. Some grievances only existed because one was powerless. Miss Xiao? Let's talk about the development plan of the Special Intelligence Department. After all, you're a member now. So, you need to make your own contribution. Of course, I'll do my best to cooperate with the Special Intelligence Department's publicity work. Also, it's within the Special Intelligence Department's capabilities. I also hope that the Special Intelligence Department can support my acting career. Is that for sure? It's a win-win situation. Chen Zhao was as free as usual these 2 days. Every day, he played and walked around. Boss? The company has moved to a new office building. Do you want to come and take a look? Not anymore? I have something to do today. Yes, Chen Zhao had something to do. He had to go to an online celebrity shop. In the past few days, Chen Zhao had gone to quite a few online celebrity shops. It wasn't that the food was really delicious. He just wanted something new. If he really wanted delicious food, Chen Zhao would hire a national banquet chef. He would make a Manchu Han imperial feast for himself every day. Okay. Zhang Ting was a bit disappointed. Chen Zhao felt that he had only gone to the company once in the half a month he had been back. It was indeed a bit ridiculous. Then go. You're still working, right? Are you coming now? Yes, I'll go now. Otherwise, I'll be lonely after everyone gets off work. The animation company's new location was better than the previous office building. The interior was also better. This was all because they had enough money. Wanhe's studio was also nearby. The monthly rent here was 800,000 yuan. It was really expensive, but the location was really good. If not for the fact that the company didn't want to sell the building. Qin Zhao wanted to buy the entire building. When Qin Zhao arrived at the company, Zhang Ting even called all the higher-ups to the door to welcome him. Then Zhang Ting took Qin Zhao to all the departments in the company. Actually, besides visiting the new location, Zhang Ting called Qin Zhao over. At the same time, she also wanted to show Qin Zhao their current results. Right now, they had already made a few minutes of unedited footage. It was mainly for Qin Zhao to see the effect. Qin Zhao actually watched cartoons too. But he really wasn't a professional. His initial investment wasn't some grand and lofty ideal. After watching the footage for a few minutes, Qin Zhao kept praising it. The characters were exquisite, the camera was beautiful, and the storyboard was accurate. Basically, these were the words. As for whether it was good or not, that was for the professionals to decide. Usually, after an animation project started, they would first make the climax of the script and then use it to get investors. For example, the famous Neza and the great sage both used this method. Their project was the same. What Qin Zhao saw was the climax of the script. Boss, stop praising it. As the audience, do you think there's anything that can be improved? Chapter 3270. Do we have enough money to burn? That was all Qin Zhao could say after holding it in for a long time. Connoisseurs appreciated the artistry, while amateurs enjoyed the show. Qin Zhao was a complete amateur. The scene he had just seen was indeed exciting. However, he knew that this quality would definitely cost a lot of money. Boss, this is the climax of the movie. Not every scene needs to be this expensive, especially for 3D movies. Some scenes can be cut to control the budget, Zhang Ting said. This clip cost about 600,000 yuan per minute, and the other scenes cost less than 100,000 yuan per minute. They're all animated scenes. Why is there such a huge difference? Using a high frame count for the fighting scenes can make the movements more coherent and realistic. There's also more special effects and post-processing. All in all, it really doesn't add up to much. If it's a Hollywood movie, some special scenes can even reach $1 million per minute. However, the scene we're showing now costs 600,000 yuan per minute. It's already the best in China. Then why can't we do a Hollywood movie? Not enough skills? It's not because of the technology, it's because there's no need for it. First of all, our labor costs are cheaper. Let's take an artist as a comparison. The price of an artist of the same level in China is 10 times higher. An artist overseas can earn 5,000 to 10,000 USD per image, but 2,000 RMB in China is enough to hire a very good artist. This is a huge savings in our budget. Secondly, our production process is all done internally, unlike Hollywood's industrial style. Many of their shots are outsourced to other companies, and the same goes for their special effects. Thus, the price is naturally much higher. As for the difference in technology, there's no obvious difference in the technology of special effects. In fact, many of Hollywood's beyond grade A movies are outsourced by local special effects companies. But I think there's still an obvious difference between the special effects in China and Hollywood. That depends on the investment price. $100 million and 10 million yuan. Anyone can see the difference, Zhang Ting said with a smile. Zhang Ting smiled and said, and the movie industry itself is a high-risk industry. The domestic market is not fully mature, and 90% of the movies that are released every year are not able to recover their costs through the cinema chain. Investing $100 million in a movie budget is very likely to result in a serious loss. Zhang Ting seemed to be worried that Qin Zhao would misunderstand that the cartoon he invested in would lose money, so she added, but the domestic market environment is developing in a good direction. The most obvious change is the increase in the domestic box office. Also, the channel? For example, the 3 major video websites? What's more, the country is actively cracking down on piracy, which is also beneficial to the domestic environment. The risk is decreasing year by year. The profits are also increasing year by year. Yes, that's great. Qin Zhao nodded. Other than that? Qin Zhao didn't know what to say. This cartoon wasn't just Qin Zhao's investment. It was also Zhang Ting's painstaking effort. Everyone in the animation industry dreamed of making a blockbuster movie. What if this cartoon was successful? Zhang Ting would also have a better attitude when working for him. Therefore, Qin Zhao hoped that the cartoon would be successful. If you don't have enough money, tell me, Qin Zhao said. I'll fully support this cartoon. Got it, boss. Also, if this cartoon fails, don't be discouraged. I won't blame anyone. Just treat it as supporting the domestic animation industry. Qin Zhao planned to give Zhang Ting a heads up first. Boss, we're just getting started. You're the one who's discouraged. Okay? Are you free in the afternoon? Come walk with me if you're free. Zhang Ting naturally couldn't reject Qin Zhao. After lunch, Zhang Ting called the company's car to pick Qin Zhao up. Old Wu, go to Nanjing Road Meiho Street. Okay, Co Jiang. The driver, Old Wu, glanced at the rearview mirror. However, the car wasn't going in the direction they wanted to go. Old Wu? Did you drive the wrong way? Old Wu glanced at the rearview mirror. Suddenly, he turned the steering wheel. In an instant, the car drove into a container of a truck driving on the highway. The truck had been driving the container, as if waiting for this moment. After their car entered the container, the door closed. There was no light in the entire container. Old Wu, what are you doing? But Old Wu didn't respond to Zhang Ting's question. Zhang Ting heard the door open and close. Clearly, Old Wu had escaped from the car during this time. He even pulled out the car key. Now, both Zhang Ting and Qin Zhao were in darkness. Zhang Ting's expression was very ugly. She had a premonition that something bad was about to happen. Old Wu's actions were obviously premeditated. What was it for? Now that Qin Zhao was here, his motive was almost certain. Mr. Qin, I'm sorry. I met the wrong person. Qin Zhao chuckled. It's okay. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding. Boss, I'm afraid it's not a misunderstanding. I think we've been kidnapped. What a disagreeable piece of news. Boss, don't worry. It'll be fine. Zhang Ting wasn't nervous at all. Instead, she tried to comfort Qin Zhao. Zhang Ting had already prepared for the worst. After this, no matter how magnanimous Qin Zhao was, he probably wouldn't be able to contain her anymore. Zhang Ting was very, very angry. She took out her phone, but there was no signal. The container clearly blocked the signal. However, this was also reasonable. Zhang Ting squeezed angrily and the phone actually shattered. Zhang Ting, your strength isn't small at all. Ha! Zhang Ting chuckled softly. Boss, turn your head. Ha! Do what? Just listen to me. Fine. Qin Zhao turned his head. Then he heard the sound of a car window shattering. At the same time, there was the sound of someone kicking the door. Boss, we can get out now, Zhang Ting said. Qin Zhao was a bit surprised. It seemed that Zhang Ting wasn't as simple as she looked. Qin Zhao really didn't realize that Zhang Ting wasn't an ordinary person. There was a strong flow of air around her body. In the past, Qin Zhao had always thought that Zhang Ting was just a female elite. Perhaps it was because she was a strong career woman. As a result, Qin Zhao never thought about Zhang Ting's other aspects. But now, she clearly wasn't going to hide it anymore. Boss, Zhang Ting said, use your phone. Qin Zhao turned on his phone and illuminated the environment inside the container. The container had clearly been modified. There were many layers and partitions. Chapter 3271. Zhang Ting looked back at Qin Zhao. Then he walked to the edge of the container. Qin Zhao tilted his head and looked at Zhang Ting. Zhang Ting suddenly punched the metal wall of the container. Duang! With a loud bang, an obvious fist print appeared on the metal wall. This container has been modified. Zhang Ting's face darkened. This punch didn't meet Zhang Ting's expectations. Director Zhang, don't waste your energy. This container is enchanted with talismans. Even if you die of exhaustion, you won't be able to break through this container. Old Wu's voice could be heard. Old Wu, you know who I am? Hee hee. I've heard of the reputation of the Zhang clan of Eagle Swamp, so there's no need for you to repeat it. Old Wu, I've always treated you well, right? Is this how you repay me? Ha, no matter how well you usually treat me, it can't compare to money. If Mr. Zhang is willing to stay out of this matter, I will not mistreat Mr. Zhang after everything is done. Naturally, Mr. Zhang will have a share. Zhang Ting looked back at Qin Zhao and said calmly, Wu, do you know what you're doing? You don't have to worry about whether I know or not. Since I dare to do it, I have nothing to fear. Zhang Ting was furious. Her dream, her future, had been ruined by this bastard. Bang! In her anger, Zhang Ting punched the iron wall again. But even with her full strength, she could only leave a fist mark on the iron wall. If he wanted to break this container, He would need at least a few hundred punches. At this moment, the car stopped. They should have arrived at their destination. Don't worry, President Qin. I won't let anything happen to you. Qin Zhao smiled and shook his head. I'm not worried. President Qin, I'm really sorry. I didn't know you well enough. At this moment, an unknown gas suddenly surged into the container. Cough, cough. Zhang Ting kept coughing. Bastard! Zhang Ting gritted her teeth and growled. However, the bewildering smoke was very choking. It should be some kind of magic used to confuse people. She felt that the flow of her magic power was incomparably slow. Then, even his physical strength disappeared. His limbs felt weak, and he couldn't even stand steadily. Zhang Ting lay on the ground and turned her head with difficulty. She realized that Chen Zhao was standing there. Chen Zhao waved his hand. The smoke smelled really bad. At this moment, the container door opened. Zhang Ting suddenly felt that someone was lifting her up. It was Chen Zhao who was carrying her. She was confused as to why Chen Zhao wasn't affected. Although the smoke was targeted at her, it was not a big deal. However, this bewildering smoke did not affect cultivators or ordinary people. Will be the same, forelimbs will be weak. Chen Zhao carried Zhang Ting and jumped off the container. The people outside were stunned for a moment. What was going on? Why was Chen Zhao fine? Was he not affected by the enchanting smoke? Be careful, this person is a little strange, Old Wu reminded his companions in a low voice. I've been vegetarian and praying to Buddha. I won't kill. Chen Zhao smiled at Old Wu and the others. If you don't kill, the outside world doesn't have to worry. Old Wu smirked. Suddenly, a black shadow emerged from the bushes at the periphery. The black shadow's speed was extremely fast, and it instantly appeared in front of Old Wu and the others. Old Wu and the others were not weak, so they immediately noticed the newcomers. However, the newcomer's combat experience was extremely rich. First, he shot a green light at one of the kidnappers. The kidnapper was the weakest and was immediately entangled by the green light. The other kidnappers wanted to save their companions. But the newcomer pulled the green light and the bound kidnapper swept past his companions. One of the kidnappers tried to hug his companion, but he was sent flying with it. But the green light turned into a poisonous snake? It quickly bit the two kidnappers. The two kidnappers realized that the situation was bad and tried to fight again. They stumbled a few steps and fell to the ground again. Oh no! The kidnappers all felt that the newcomer's strength was unfathomable. The kidnappers were about the same. But the newcomer could easily defeat two of them. They probably could not hold on for long. Old Wu turned to escape. But just then, a large number of poisonous scorpions suddenly emerged from the bushes. There were a lot of them? They covered an area of dozens of meters. They completely blocked Old Wu's escape route. Moreover, the scorpions were approaching him. Old Wu could only change directions. When he looked back, he realized that his companions had all fallen. Mr. Qin. The newcomer was none other than Mo Han. Another person appeared from the bushes. It was Mo Han's girlfriend, Zhao Li. Old Wu was the only kidnapper left standing. Do you want to help your girlfriend? Mo Han looked back and shook his head. No need. Mo Han saw Zhang Ting in Chen Zhao's hand. Mr. Qin? Do you need me to see your friend? Chen Zhao placed Zhang Ting on the ground. Mo Han came over to check. He then took out a pill and stuffed it into Zhang Ting's mouth. Soon, the enchanting smoke on Zhang Ting was dispelled. Zhang Ting? How do you feel? Chief Chen, this is my bodyguard, Chen Zhao said. Zhang Ting was in a trance. It was no wonder. Chen Zhao was such a big boss. It was impossible not to have a bodyguard. It turned out that there was such a powerful bodyguard following them. No wonder Chen Zhao could walk around so casually. Furthermore, he wasn't surprised at all when he saw his monstrous strength. So he had seen it before. At this time, Zhao Li had already dealt with Old Wu. President Chen, I'm very sorry. Put you in danger? I am voluntarily resigning from my current position. No need? I didn't take it to heart. It's just a small matter. President Chen, this is not a small matter. If I say it's a small matter, then it's a small matter. It wasn't like Jiang Ting betrayed him. Qin Zhao didn't blame Jiang Ting. To Qin Zhao, he was a grown man showing off his wealth everywhere. He didn't even have a bodyguard with him. It was no wonder that someone would think about him. Qin Zhao wasn't surprised by the kidnapping at all. Plus, Jiang Ting couldn't possibly know who in the company wanted to harm him. She couldn't read minds either. Plus, Qin Zhao valued Jiang Ting a lot. His current ultimate move, Neutron Star, was Jiang Ting's idea. This neutron star was very meaningful to him. Just this alone made it worth Qin Zhao asking her to stay. Qin Zhao also hoped that Jiang Ting could give him more constructive suggestions in the future. Jiang Ting didn't expect Qin Zhao to be so firm. He didn't blame her at all. President Chen, how about I demote myself and reduce my salary? There's no need for this formality. Okay, this ends here. Then old Wu and the others, there will be professionals dealing with this. Qin Zhao said. I've informed the Special Intelligence Division. Mohan said. He was running a security company now, so he naturally had to deal with the Special Intelligence Division. I'll leave it to you. Oh, you drove here, right? Mohan passed the car keys to Qin Zhao. Chapter 3272. In the evening, Qin Zhao went to the Special Intelligence Department after dinner. The headquarters of the Huadong Region's Special Intelligence Department was set up in an old house from the 30s or 40s. There were 2 floors in total, and a sign was hung outside. Unconventional Security Operations Department. There were houses all around, and they were all old houses of similar age. When Qin Zhao entered the headquarters of the Special Intelligence Department, Zhou Yiren walked out. Mr. Chen, why are you here? Huh? I'm here to see the people who kidnapped me, Qin Zhao said, chuckling. All right, I'll take you to see them. Passing through the courtyard, Qin Zhao realized that the Special Intelligence Department was rather small. Minister Zhou, I saw a lot of people in the Special Intelligence Department a few days ago, but I don't think this place can hold so many people. It's not like they sit in an office. Other than a few people who deal with paperwork, the other members in charge of the operation basically sleep at home. If they have something to do, they go out to carry out missions. Not many of them need an office. After entering a small room, Zhou Yiren opened the entrance to a cellar. It turned out that there was still space below, but it was just a dungeon. There were a total of 10 rooms, and the area was quite small. Each cubicle was about 6 square meters. They ate and drank together. Minister Zhou, your conditions have really widened my horizons. This feeling was similar to when he first accepted the supernatural organization. But the supernatural organization was weak because they didn't have the power. Without strength, one would naturally have no money. However, even with Qin Zhao's current knowledge, the strength of the Special Intelligence Division was not something he could deal with. That was also a superb standard. When Xiao Jiaqiu's incident happened before, 20 to 30 members of the Secret Intelligence Department. Every one of them was basically at the elite level. With such strength, he would definitely be a trump card anywhere in the world. There's nothing I can do. I can't get any funding. Zhou Yiren was also very helpless. Moreover, Shanghai's housing prices are really high. This house is owned by the government. Otherwise, I reckon our department would have to settle in the suburbs. Oh, by the way, this is what I promised Minister Zhou last time. Qin Zhao took out a check and handed it to Zhou Yiren. Mr. Chen, how could I do that? Nothing, just a good karma. Qin Zhao's words were straightforward. If you give me convenience, I'll give you benefits. It's that simple. Zhou Yiren glanced at the number on it, then silently put away the check. On behalf of all the members of the Special Intelligence Department, I thank Mr. Chen. By the way, if you need it, I happen to have a building. It's not in the CBD. It's on Nanjing Road, but it's not far. It's only 4 floors. It's for rent now. If Minister Zhou needs it, I can rent it to the Special Intelligence Department cheaply. What price? Zhou Yiren was tempted. He knew that Qin Zhao would give him a discount. However, this was Shanghai after all. Even if it was not in the CBD, every inch of land was still expensive. Is Nanjing Road considered a bustling area? The small office building also had a sky-high price. In fact, in Shanghai, whether it was in the CBD area or not, the price was sky-high. 100,000 a month. Zhou Yiren gasped. Chen Zhao was basically doing it for free. After all, Qin Zhao's animation company had rented an entire floor. That's 3 million yuan a month. Although the location was in the CBD area, the difference between the two would normally not be double. On the other hand, Chen Zhao still had an entire office building. The rent would only be more expensive than the office building of an animation company. Mr. Chen? Is that appropriate? Whether it's suitable or not, Minister Zhou should first look at the environment before deciding. I'm afraid it's too noisy over there. It'll affect your work. Okay. When are you free? Let's go take a look. I'm free anytime. Zhou Yiren opened a cell. Old Wu was inside. Come out. Zhou Yiren yelled. Chen Zhao could be considered his sugar daddy now. This thing kidnapped Chen Zhao. It was another crime committed in his territory. Zhou Yiren naturally had to give Chen Zhao enough face. Old Wu saw that Zhou Yiren had opened the cell so casually. Moreover, he wasn't restrained by shackles yet. He pounced at Chen Zhao. If he could catch Chen Zhao, he might even have a chance to escape. But Zhou Yiren's eyes and hands were sharp. He looked like he was middle-aged and fat, but he was actually many times stronger than the members of the Special Intelligence Department. He did not make any fancy moves, but he just grabbed the back of Old Wu's neck. Old Wu immediately felt that his body couldn't move. Old Wu wanted to struggle again. But Zhou Yiren didn't care. He dragged Old Wu's neck and walked out. The smell is heavy here? Let's go outside. Old Wu was like a rabbit. Zhou Yiren had him under his control. The smell in the dungeon was indeed bad. Out of the dungeon, Chen Zhao took in a deep breath. Someone died down there, right? The smell is really strong. How many years has the Special Intelligence Department been established? Would you believe me if I said no one died? That's true. How do we deal with this guy? Zhou Yiren asked. Old Wu's life could be decided with a word from Chen Zhao. But since Chen Zhao had handed him over to the Special Intelligence Department, he definitely didn't plan on killing him. Zhou Yiren wasn't worried that things would be hard to deal with. Nothing. Leave him here? I just want to ask a few questions, Chen Zhao said. Zhou Yiren casually tossed Old Wu to the ground. You'll answer whatever Mr. Chen asks? Don't make trouble for yourself, Zhou Yiren threatened. I've never interacted with you before? Since you know I'm the boss of my company, you must have a spy in the company, right? Fuck you! Old Wu suddenly attacked. He bounced up from the ground and pounced at Chen Zhao. This time, Zhou Yiren didn't attack. Chen Zhao raised his leg and kicked Old Wu's stomach. Old Wu was dumbfounded. He smashed into the wall and then fell to the ground, unable to stand up. Instantly, he knew that Chen Zhao was a cultivator too. Chen Zhao was also many times stronger than him. Speak! You can't run. You don't have to cover for your accomplice. Old Wu glanced at Chen Zhao and closed his eyes with a cold smile. It seemed that he'd accepted his fate and didn't plan on answering Chen Zhao's questions. Oh, you're pretty stubborn. Zhou Yiren sneered. Mr. Chen, leave it to me. I guarantee he'll talk in half an hour. Since he would rather suffer than speak, it must be someone related to him by blood. Check his background. Minister Zhou, that shouldn't be a problem, right? No problem. Old Wu glanced at Chen Zhao and Zhou Yiren and closed his eyes again. Chen Zhao waited outside for half an hour. Zhou Yiren walked out, sweating profusely. He smiled bitterly at Chen Zhao. Mr. Chen, sorry. That guy's too stubborn. I already broke his bones, but he didn't say anything. Whatever, there's no rush. Qin Zhao wasn't sure if there was a spy. His guess just now was too subjective. After all, he was famous in the company. Maybe he heard the employees talking about him. But if there really was a spy, it was better to get rid of this unsettling factor as soon as possible. Chapter 3273. Stephen went back to Magic City. On the first day he came back, he dragged Qin Zhao to the most expensive restaurant. Dragon Tiger Mountain was a tourist development zone. But the conditions couldn't compare to a city like Magic City. Stephen and the film crew spent most of their time in a Taoist temple. Of course, as a director, Stephen was used to filming in the open. So, this wasn't a problem for him. He was a famous director. When he'd filmed them on, he'd drifted on the sea for more than a month. He hadn't seen any complaints either. If he couldn't film outdoors, he might as well change his career. Stephen, is the filming done? Yes. Now, we just need editing. Also, how do you plan to operate this documentary? I'll leave it to you, Qin Zhao said. Qin Zhao had invested in the film industry a few times. But in the end, he was still a layman. This kind of operation needed someone like Stephen to operate. How about Rasfa's company? He called me last time and scolded me for an hour and a half. I'm fine with anything. Qin Zhao shrugged. Qin Zhao had thought that Stephen had such a hard time filming. It was only right for him to earn some money for the operation. But since Stephen said so, Qin Zhao didn't object. Go to Wang for the operation in China. He definitely has connections in this area. Okay. Qin Zhao wasn't worried about not finding a broadcasting platform. After all, the local video websites and TV stations would probably fight to buy it if they heard that it was filmed by Stephen and that it would be broadcast in all countries. Stephen's influence was quite widespread in China. In the next 2 days, Stephen and Qin Zhao had a few meals with Wang He and Chen Ke. Stephen and Wang He were obviously going to invest in the studio. The two had basically discussed the details. Naturally, Wang He would leak the news. The domestic entertainment industry heard that Stephen had invested in Wang He and Chen Ke's studio. They couldn't believe it. They couldn't find out why Stephen did it. But this meant that Wang He and Chen Ke already had a ticket to Hollywood. In the past, they'd gotten roles in Hollywood movies. People in the entertainment industry thought that they were the capital behind the scenes. But it was different now. In Stephen's future movie project. In Stephen's future film projects, they'd be given priority if there were suitable roles. This also made other artists ask tentatively if they could invest in their studio. The result was, of course, negative. Qin Zhao already had a certain amount of shares. Wang He had sold his shares to Stephen. He, who originally had the most shares, was now less than Chen Ke. Naturally, he would not thin out his own shares. It was impossible for Chen Ke to sell it. Everyone could see it now. Their studio shares were worth tens of thousands of gold coins. This was not just the valuation in the financial market. It was a shortcut to Hollywood. Qin Zhao also handed the broadcasting rights of the documentary to the studio. As for which channel it would be broadcasted on, Qin Zhao didn't care anymore. In any case, Wang He's men would make the necessary arrangements. The domestic affairs were almost settled as well. Louis Bo's side was also speeding up the bidding for the Great Mysteries Island. The current situation was basically clear, and the chips of the major companies had also surfaced. There were only 3 companies that could compete with them. However, it was hard to say who would be the winner in the end. The only regret was that they couldn't find the spy who kidnapped Qin Zhao. However, Zhou Yiren promised to continue investigating. Naturally, they would take Qin Zhao's private plane back. After a 26-hour flight, Qin Zhao and Stephen finally arrived in Los Angeles. Everything was normal at home. Qin Zhao video-called his family every day. Everything was normal for the supernatural organization. There were more and more supernatural incidents that needed to be dealt with. Currently, a large number of supernatural incidents were popping up all over the United States. Some of them were caused by ghosts and monsters. However, A large portion of them were awakened ones. The past 3-night awakening pattern was no longer applicable. A large number of awakened ones did not pass the life and death retribution and inexplicably awakened. And it brought about a certain social impact. After Chen Zhao returned to L.A., it was still 2 o'clock every day. Chen Zhao still insisted on going to the 12th floor every day. The first fire was still refining his bloodline, although the daily improvement was negligible. However, with the accumulation of time, there would still be significant improvements. To his surprise, the golden rock seemed to be affected by the first flame too. The golden rock was already in the stage of evolution. Its bloodline had not yet reached a bottleneck. The primordial flame contained infinite possibilities. President, you mentioned going to Huaxia for an exchange with the Special Intelligence Department's Huaxia branch. I've looked at it, and I personally hope to facilitate this exchange, but we have too much work to do now. Even the outer members have started accepting missions directly, and the exchange will take at least half a month. We've already accumulated more than 200 missions, and as time goes by, the workload will only increase. If we leave for another half a month, I'm afraid it will affect public security. Give me missions with detailed addresses and content. I'll try my best to complete them, Chen Zhao said. President, you'll be in charge? Yes. Missions that are straightforward and only need to kill some monsters or deliver something to run errands can be given to me. If it's a mission that requires complicated procedures, then forget it. Just set a time for the exchange. During the time, I'll be in charge of all the missions. Qin Zhao felt that as the president of the supernatural organization, he had to take on the responsibilities of the president too. The exchange with China was a rare opportunity. He had no choice. The supernatural organization was in an awkward position right now. In North America and even the entire Americas, the supernatural organization was a top-tier organization. But after leaving the Americas, the organizations outside didn't think much of the supernatural organization. They couldn't even talk to them. But now, he could communicate with a Chinese organization. Qin Zhao naturally couldn't miss this opportunity. All right then. West nodded. Then West slapped a 30-centimeter thick document on Qin Zhao's table. President, these are our current backlog of missions. Although Qin Zhao had just made a promise, he still felt a headache when he saw so many backlogged missions. Have you picked them all? Yes, they're all very straightforward missions. For the president, they're just running errands. It didn't matter to Qin Zhao how strong or weak these ghosts were. It was just that they were very far apart. Chapter 3274. Phoenix. Helper. High school student Viscera Leby. Qin Zhao flipped through the file and called Viscera Leby according to the contact information on the file. Is this Ms. Viscera Leby? Yes. May I know who you are? Did you request for help from the supernatural half a month ago? Yes. Are you from that supernatural organization? Yes, I am. Do you have time now? Now? Viscera looked at the sky. It was already night. She didn't think it was a good idea to go out at this time. Plus, she'd only said it herself. I'm downstairs. Viscera pulled open the curtains. Indeed, there was someone standing under the shade of the tree. Why are you here? You wrote your address when you applied? Did you forget? Okay, sorry. I'll come down now. Viscera went downstairs carefully without waking up her family. In your request, you want to get rid of the evil spirit in your old house, right? Yes. Is it far from here? About 2 blocks from here. Viscera studied Qin Zhao. Do you mind if I take you there? How are you going to guide me? Qin Zhao grabbed Viscera's wrist. Viscera suddenly felt his body lighten, and then a powerful pressure hit him in the face. She couldn't keep her expression. The next moment, she paused. Qin Zhao looked down and asked, Which direction? Huh! It's over there. Viscera Leby calmed himself down with much difficulty. 10 seconds later, she finally arrived at the old house. Chen Zhao's little universe scanned the old house. 2 evil spirits. They were relatively dangerous and had killed people before. Chen Zhao casually created 2 balls of light and threw them into the house. All the windows in the house lit up immediately. They were just normal balls of light. They had no use other than illumination. In fact, the 2 evil spirits had already been crushed by Chen Zhao's little universe. Only dregs were left now. However, clients like this Sarah Levy couldn't believe it. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they wouldn't believe that the evil spirits had been destroyed. So, Chen Zhao needed to create some light screens or special effects. This was to increase the credibility of his actions. Then, a black shadow broke through the window of the room. But in the next instant, the black shadow seemed to have been set ablaze. In an instant, it was burned to ashes. As expected, Vesela Levy was shocked by this shocking scene. Just now. That was. Vishra Levy could not close his mouth as he pointed at the scene just now. When the light disappeared, Chen Zhao said, "Okay, the evil spirit has been destroyed. I'll cast a purification spell and completely purify the evil aura in this house." "Is it already over?" "Yes, 2 evil spirits. They're a bit strong, but they're perfectly restrained by my magic. It's fine now. Your parents can sell this house for a good price." Thank you so much. It's my job." "You're welcome. I'll send you home now." He returned home faster than he came. When Vishla Levy landed on the ground, his hair was completely messy. The lights in the house suddenly came on. "Vishla, what are you doing outside alone?" Vishla Levy froze. When he turned around, Qin Zhao was already gone. Qin Zhao looked at the time. 5 minutes. Not bad. Next. Phew. It's really far. Houston's commission. Hey, is this Trony? I'm a member of the supernatural organization. You did a commission 10 days ago, right? Qin Zhao had spent 15 minutes on this mission. 10 of them had been spent on the road. If Qin Zhao went at full speed, he could reach Houston in a few seconds. However, there would be a high-energy reaction during flight. Qin Zhao would probably be targeted by anti-ballistic missiles before he even landed. It would be ridiculous if he landed in front of the client's house with a few tracking missiles. So, Qin Zhao still tried to get to his destination as soon as possible without being detected by radars and satellites. Qin Zhao did not plan to finish all the missions in one day. Under normal circumstances, he couldn't finish them in one day. Even if they were missions that had been selected by West. There were still some complicated missions. Maybe there was a deviation in the recording here. Or maybe the client didn't explain the mission clearly. When Qin Zhao carried out the mission, he couldn't just ignore it because it was slightly different from the mission. For example, Qin Zhao's 3rd mission. The client was in San Francisco. His mission was to destroy an evil spirit that had been pestering him. But in reality, the evil spirit was his dead girlfriend. His girlfriend had no ill intentions. She just stayed by his side because of her obsession with him. It was easy to destroy her soul. One slap could do it. However, this kind of behavior was too outrageous. So, Qin Zhao patiently explained to the client. If the client didn't mind, then the mission would end here. If the client didn't mind, then the supernatural organization would contact some special spiritualists. They would be in charge of purifying the soul and letting her go where she should go. The supernatural organization currently lacks spiritualists. They were people who prayed for the dead. In Eastern terms, they would send the dead to heaven. They would let go of their obsession and return to the 6 realms of reincarnation. Some missions were simple, like Vishla Levy's. They were just 2 weak evil spirits. He just had to destroy them. Then he would add a light effect. Make the client believe that he had cast a spell. In one day, Qin Zhao had finished 10 missions. He was planning to call it a day and was about to go home. Suddenly, an unfamiliar call came in. "Excuse me, are you a spiritualist? How do you know this number?" "I called a supernatural organization. They said that you're in charge of my mission. I want to know, I've been applying for it for a month." When can you finish it for me? A month? Can you tell me your personal information again? I'll check the progress. Carlos Morin. I live in Nashville. Did you find out? Oh, your mission is that there are shadows coming in and out of your house every night. You suspect that there's an evil spirit in your house, right? Yes. How is it? Did my mission go through? Yes, it did, Chen Zhao said. I just happened to take over this mission. I'm in Nashville now and heading to your house. Chapter 3275. Are you in Nashville already? The man clearly didn't expect Chen Zhao to be in Nashville already. There seems to be a lot of wind over there. Oh, I'm in the car, Chen Zhao answered casually. I'm already at your address, Chen Zhao replied casually. But it doesn't look like someone lives here. Chen Zhao landed and realized that 699 Deer King Street wasn't a residential area. Instead, it was a cemetery. Are you here? Wait a moment. I'll be there soon. About 20 minutes later, a car stopped beside the cemetery. Two people got out of the car. Chen Zhao glanced at them and frowned. The two men hid their auras very well. However, they didn't have any special techniques to hide their auras. They weren't normal people. Like Chen Zhao, they were spiritualists. They could only hide their auras with their own abilities. If it was an ordinary spiritual controller, it would indeed be very difficult to detect their cultivation. However, they couldn't hide from Chen Zhao. Before Chen Zhao, they couldn't hide at all. So, whether this mission was really like what it was in the mission description was. There were clearly some discrepancies. Which one of you is Mr. Carlos Maluin? Chen Zhao asked. The mission said that there was an evil spirit in Carlos Maluin's house. However, with the two men's abilities, an evil spirit might not be their match. Unless it was a ghost king in their house. I am, a man in his 30s said, stepping forward. What about this one? This is my older brother, right, Maluin? Then take me to your house. I'm in a hurry and hope to purify it as soon as possible. The two brothers exchanged glances. Okay, sir, please follow us, Carlos Maluin said. Oh, sir, how should I address you? I'm Chinese. You can call me Chen. Okay, Mr. Chen. Chen Zhao got into the two men's car. I don't understand why you gave me the address of a cemetery. That's not a good client. Oh, I wrote the wrong address, Carlos Maluin said casually. The car stopped before a house. Mr. Chen, we're here. Please get off. Chen Zhao looked at the house before him. Is it here? The house looked like it had been around for a long time. The whole house was filled with a strong spiritual energy. If there really was an evil spirit inside, it would indeed be very powerful. We'll wait for you here. We don't dare to go inside. Chen Zhao nodded and entered the house. However, after entering the house, the door was locked with a click. Chen Zhao looked back at the door and continued walking. At this moment, there was a commotion in the room. It was as if there were many people, or rather, a family. Old people, children, women, men, babies, they were playing, resting, crying, angry, and happy. The entire house was filled with the emotions of these people. Another host has arrived? I hope this time, hee hee. A voice came from the room. This voice was an amalgamation of all the previous voices. It was just one sentence, but it was heavily emphasized. A spiritual body appeared before Chen Zhao. It was a six-faced evil spirit, one that Chen Zhao had never seen before. There were 6 faces on its head, an old person, a child, a woman, a man, a baby, and a ferocious-looking face at the back of its head. Don't run, please don't run, or else I'll be angry. You don't want to see me angry, the 6-faced evil spirit said in a strange tone. The 6-faced evil spirit said in a strange tone. Human, I will allow your soul to escape, but you must leave your body behind. Chen Zhao opened his arms. If you want my body, then come. The 6-faced evil spirit pounced at Chen Zhao. However, it didn't take over Chen Zhao's body as expected. Instead, it passed through Chen Zhao's body. The six-faced evil spirit was stunned. What's going on? So polite? I didn't resist at all. Do you want to try again? The six-faced evil spirit was infuriated by Chen Zhao's words. It pounced again. But this time, it missed again. It passed through as if it had hit a wall. Chen Zhao yawned. Are you serious? Didn't you say you want to take over my body? You damned human, I'm going to tear you apart. The six-faced evil spirit was furious. It felt like the human was playing with it. Carlos, do you think the demonic spirit can succeed? Carlos Malouin hesitated for a moment before shaking his head. I reckon it'll be very difficult. That demon spirit has the emotions of 100 people and the faces of 1,000 people. Even if we find him the body of a spiritualist, I'm afraid it'll be very difficult to bear his power. How did that guy appear? I've never seen such a terrifying spirit before. It's not natural. It's man-made. Man-made? Can someone create such a monstrous spirit? Apparently, this method is a combination of Eastern soul training and Western death magic. First, it needs a family with 5 people. The family members must be an old person, a couple, a child, and an infant. Then, they'll be killed in order. Then, the spirits of the family of 5 will be placed in the hospital morgue to absorb the corpse aura in the morgue for 81 days. Why is it so similar to Thai ghost raising? Yes, it's Thailand's method of raising ghosts. This method is called the soul refinement method. In the East, the soul refinement method also means home. The vengeful spirit of extremine is actually not particularly ferocious in the East. However, when combined with the Western death magic, it evolved into the ferocious demonic spirit of today. The vengeful spirit of extremine is specifically fed with special food. What food? The soul of a wife who was abused by her husband, the soul of a student who was bullied by his classmates, the soul of a child who was abandoned by his parents, the soul of a man whose lover was stolen by his best friend, the soul of a loser who was cheated of all his assets, the soul of the unemployed, the soul of the disabled. So, you're looking for souls filled with hatred? That's right. It's through this method of feeding, one a day, that the ultimate demon spirit is finally born. Carlos Malouin said. Then, what about its owner? No one can control this ultimate demonic spirit, not even its creator. In the end, the owner will be devoured by the ultimate demonic spirit and become its food. What a pitiful guy. Now, the ultimate demonic spirit is only one step away. It's missing a host that can store its soul. Then, its power will be unprecedentedly strong. However, since the invention of this method, there hasn't been a complete ultimate demonic spirit. It's already so terrifying now. How terrifying will it be if it really appears in its complete form? Chapter 3276. Just then, the door opened. Chen Zhao walked out of the house. Carlos Malouin and Right Malouin were both stunned. How had he walked out? No. He could walk out now. Had the ultimate demon spirit succeeded? This man's body could bear the ultimate demon spirit. In other words, this man was actually the ultimate demon spirit? Disbelief filled the two brothers' faces. Before this, they tricked over a dozen spiritualists through various methods. Among them, there were 2 or 3 spiritualists who were very famous. But the ultimate demon spirit's parasitism had all failed. They hadn't expected that the nameless spiritualist they'd found today would successfully let the ultimate demon spirit possess him. The two brothers glanced at each other, planning to go over and ask. But the next moment, they saw a black liquid seeping out of the ground at the door. The two brothers couldn't help but look inside. In the darkness, they saw the ultimate demon spirit. The ultimate demon spirit hadn't possessed this man? A lot of questions popped up in their heads. The next moment, they realized something was wrong. Because the ultimate demon spirit seemed to be in pain on the hallway. The source of his pain seemed to be the black liquid coming from the ground. The black liquid was corroding the ultimate demon spirit's body. But the ultimate demon spirit's spirit body was also black. So it didn't seem obvious. but the ultimate demon spirit clearly wanted to break free of the black liquid on the ground. But every time he struggled, the black liquid would only stick tighter to him. The two brothers' expressions were unnatural. What had happened? How could the ultimate demon spirit be like this? The ultimate devil spirit looked at the two brothers in despair and reached out a hand. Save me, please, please help me!" he cried out in a low voice. Behind the ultimate demon spirit, the black liquid churned and covered him. But the ultimate demon spirit was very tenacious. He burrowed out again, but he still couldn't break free of the black liquid. A chill rose from the bottom of the two brothers' feet. Was this still the insufferably arrogant and vicious ultimate demon spirit? In the past, they'd suffered a lot from the ultimate demon spirit's threats and oppression. But now, they only felt a sense of desolation. The ultimate demon spirit grew more and more desperate. However, his aura was constantly weakening. Like a deflated balloon, he started shriveling. Black liquid seeped out of each of its facial features. Finally, its aura completely disappeared. The black liquid covered him again. This time, the ultimate demon spirit wasn't able to crawl out. It was completely swallowed by the black liquid. Then the black liquid started flowing back. It flowed out of the room, back to Qinzhao's feet, and finally disappeared. Without saying a word, the two of them broke into a run. But the next moment, black liquid seeped out of his feet again. Then, at an even faster speed, it circled in front of the two brothers and turned into the color of fire, as if it was lava. The current dark magma was no longer pure dark magma. As Qinzhao's power and level increased, he could switch between lava and the dark serum at will. "Sir? Mr. Qin. Please listen to our explanation. We were forced to do this." Qinzhao smiled and shook his head. "Sure, you don't have to say anything. I understand." Do you really understand? Of course, it's normal for humans to make such a decision based on their desire to survive. If it were me, I would probably make the same decision. Thank you for your understanding. Can we go now?" Qinzhao was still smiling. "I can understand, but that doesn't mean I accept it. So sorry. I'm in a hurry." The surrounding magma suddenly lunged at the two brothers. "No!" the two brothers wailed. The next moment, the house in front of them exploded into pieces with a loud bang. The magma returned to Qinzhao's body. The two brothers' corpses had also turned into charcoal. The police could only conclude that they died in a fire. Qinzhao took out the letter. "The next one is..." He encountered a small accident during the mission. It wasted some time, but it was a boring mission. Such a small accident could make Qinzhao more energetic. Qinzhao had originally planned to call it a day and go home. Now that he was energetic again, he planned to do a few more missions before going back. "Morning, darling." Qinzhao made breakfast. Fei Lai rubbed her hair. "Morning." A while later, the children woke up one after another. Portia and Zephyra also arrived soon after. Portia came to get breakfast out of habit. She was a bit tight on money recently. She couldn't help it. She was the kind of person who didn't learn her lesson. Qinzhao had pressured her so much earlier that she wanted to die. She almost said that she would go to the union to sue Qinzhao. But because she bought a branded bag a few days ago, she started pestering Qinzhao to borrow money again. Qinzhao still lent her money. He still charged her higher interest than the bank. She also owed the bank a lot of money. So, apart from Qinzhao, she couldn't find anyone who was willing to lend her money. Even loan sharks weren't willing to lend her money. Because her credibility was too poor. "Boss, if you don't lend me some money, your beautiful assistant will really go to San Fernando Valley to film a movie," Portia begged Qinzhao bitterly. "That's great. Haven't you always dreamed of being a female star? Maybe this is a good chance to debut." Portia gave Qinzhao the middle finger and threw herself on the sofa angrily. Fei Lai never cared about Portia, and Portia never borrowed money from Fei Lai. "Portia, why don't you borrow money from Zephyra?" Fei Lai asked, smiling. "She's the same as you. She won't lend me money at all." Then why do you think your boss will lend you money? Because he can't wait to push me into an even deeper abyss. Ha! Qin Zhao chuckled. Okay, keep working hard. I'm going to work now. Miss Fei Lai, do you have any openings in the coastal rescue team? The ones with super high salaries. It's best if you don't have to do anything but lie on the beach and bask in the sun every day. I'll ask for you. Fei Lai didn't want to listen to Portia's nonsense. After Fei Lai left, Qin Zhao crossed his legs and said, I have a job here. Do you want it? Is the salary high? Your pay is based on the amount of work. The more you do, the more you get. What job? Supernatural incidents. Qin Zhao said. These missions cost $20,000 each. They're all within Los Angeles. Chapter 3277. Boss, Portia was just a normal person half a year ago. I don't think she can complete your tasks. Zevra didn't want Portia to take the risk. Even though Portia had awakened for a while, Portia still didn't have the resolve to fight. She was just a normal person who suddenly had strange powers. Portia's awakened ability was actually very strong. At least it had great potential. Theoretically, if she had enough fragrance, she might be able to fight Qin Zhao before her body collapsed. If the entire earth was planted with tulips, however, apart from randomly using her abilities, Portia had never been able to use them. She hadn't participated in a real battle even once. She accepted Qin Zhao's tasks with this level? Was she kidding? However, Portia, who was red from owing money, couldn't care less anymore. I'll do it. Portia had always been like this. She didn't need to think about most things. To her, solving the problem in front of her was the most important. She would only be afraid of danger when she faced it. Boss! Zevra looked at Qin Zhao helplessly. Fine. I'll go with Portia too. Very good. Your reward is $100,000 per mission. This was what Qin Zhao had been waiting for. Wait. Why is Zevra's pay so much higher than mine for the same mission? Pooh! Portia clutched her stomach and wailed on the ground. Zevra moved her knuckles. Is this reason enough? Oh. You could have told me in a more peaceful way, Portia said in pain. I'm just afraid that you don't understand. Zevra sighed. This little bitch really wasn't afraid of death. She just had to cause trouble everywhere. Qin Zhao had even become friends with her. Now, he had to carry a gun for her again. Be her babysitter. This feeling was really annoying. Zevra took the documents Qin Zhao handed her. Boss, these 3 missions shouldn't be difficult for you, right? Maybe you can finish them in a day. Qin Zhao pointed at a stack of documents not far away. These are the missions I'm responsible for. 3 missions in a day was already very inefficient for Qin Zhao. Zevra stopped talking. Don't tell me you're taking on all the missions from the supernatural organization? Not all of them, but most of them. The supernatural organization has a lot of missions, and they'll need to go out for a while, so I have to let them have a peaceful holiday. Portia, you must listen to my orders completely when carrying out the commission. If you dare to disobey my orders, Zevra, you can kill her. I'll hire the best lawyer for you. Portia hissed at Qin Zhao and grinned. When would he be able to escape from the clutches of this devil boss? But when he thought about the money he owed, Portia felt that her future was filled with darkness. He owed Qin Zhao $25 million half a year ago. In the past 6 months, not only did she not pay him back, but she also borrowed money from him many times. Including the interest, it was already $2 million USD. It was impossible to resist, not even in this lifetime. Qin Zhao didn't have to worry about Zevra following Portia. After all, Zevra had fought a dragon before. Moreover, he was a dragon slayer in the truest sense. The missions they accepted weren't difficult either. At least they weren't disaster level or disaster level. Out of the 3 missions, the only one that was slightly difficult was the first night of awakening. Qin Zhao felt that this mission was the most time-consuming. Last time, Portia had awakened on the first night too. Then, there was the difficulty of at least the third night. So this time, Chen Zhao reminded Zephyr. If she really ran into trouble, call him. That night, Chen Zhao received Zephyr's call. But it wasn't to ask for help. Instead, it was to report on the mission. The mission for the first night of awakening had been completed. This mission was rather challenging. But there were no accidents. It was indeed a normal night of awakening. The client was the spiritualist's family. They had a certain amount of combat power themselves. So, the first night ended very quickly. As for the other two missions, they shouldn't be difficult for Zephyr either. The next day, when Zephyr and Portia arrived, Qin Zhao noticed that Zephyr's expression wasn't right. Zephyr, what happened? With a cold expression, Zephyr glanced at the awkward Portia. Asked this woman? It seemed that Zephyr was really angry this time. Qin Zhao looked at Zephyr. Then you explained the situation. Nothing. Didn't we all finish the mission? Portia tried to change the topic. Clearly, she didn't want to talk about what had happened last night. Then, Qin Zhao looked at Zephyr. What exactly happened? He believed that Zephyr definitely had a reason. Zephyr was young, but she had a maturity and experience that others her age couldn't compare to. On the other hand, Portia was the opposite. She was childish in every way. Last night, after completing the first night's mission, we went on to the second mission. It was going well, and we sealed the evil spirit. However, this woman actually stole the jewelry from the client's house, and the jewelry she stole turned out to be a magic tool. After I exposed her, she secretly threw the jewelry away, and it just happened to be thrown into the sealing circle. The evil spirit immediately rushed out, and its strength greatly increased. She and I almost died there. Chen Zhao was speechless. Portia was even more embarrassed. I saw that the jewelry fell on the ground and I picked it up for the client. It was so messy and I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to find it. Zephyr didn't want to talk anymore. Chen Zhao glanced at Portia. I told you yesterday that you should shoot her. Zephyr was too soft-hearted. She knew that if she didn't ask, Portia would definitely run off to do the mission herself for money. She would definitely run off to do the mission for money. By then, it would be hard to say whether she would live or die. I'll give you all her reward for yesterday's mission, Qin Zhao said. How can you do this? Portia immediately wailed. Or you can shoot her now so that she doesn't get in the way again. Portia immediately looked at Zephyr with watery eyes. Forget it, I think she's had enough of a lesson. Just pay her what she deserves. Hearing Zephyr's words, Portia immediately smiled. Zephyr, you're the best. Oh, boss, where's my money? I already deducted this month's interest. What? Boss, what are you talking about? You're saying that I worked all night and didn't get a single cent? Chapter 3278. Portia was already crying from anger. She lay on the ground and threw a tantrum. If he didn't pay, she wouldn't get up today. Then Qin Zhao ignored her. Zephyr ignored her too. When she was tired from crying, she went to play games. At noon, she returned to the table as if nothing had happened. Portia, do you still want to do the mission? I don't care. I won't accept it if you don't pay. Did I not pay? I just deducted your payment from the interest. I don't care. I want cash. Check is fine too. Fine. The interest is there anyway. The more you owe, the more you'll have to pay in the future. Portia enjoyed the meal very much. Interest and paying were all in the future. Right now, she just wanted to see money so that she could pay back her credit card. She was an ostrich now. As long as it wasn't in front of her, everything would be fine. In the afternoon, Chen Zhao, Portia, and Zevra were having a barbecue when Navika Lena arrived. Boss, this is the account report sent by Mr. Liu from China. Please take a look. Also, he said in his email that he's already obtained the development rights for the Big Quinn Island project. He'll contact you today and talk to you directly. Navika was already Qin Zhao's most important assistant. but she wasn't as close to Qin Zhao's family as Portia and Zevra. For one, she was doing her job. For another, she was just a normal person. So, she didn't know Qin Zhao's family secrets. "Okay, thank you. Do you want to stay and eat?" "No," Avika said. "I still have last quarter's financial report. I haven't finished the income and expenditure report yet." She glanced at Portia and Zevra, expressing her disdain for their self-deprecation. If they had the time, they might as well find something else to do. With Qin Zhao's enormous assets, there were too many things he had to deal with. Other than her job, there were many details that she could get commission for. If she helped Qin Zhao negotiate with Northern Gravity Group like last time, the commission she got would be enough for her to work for a few years. Every time she saw Zevra and Portia, they were just playing. She rarely saw them do anything for Qin Zhao. She didn't understand why Qin Zhao could tolerate them. She felt that Qin Zhao could fire Portia and Zafra. Then, they would give their salary to him, and he alone could complete the workload of 3 people. After Navikalina left, Zephyr came out with a stack of missions. "Boss, are we going to choose by ourselves this time?" "All right, if there are any quests that you can do, just accept them." Qin Zhao didn't expect them to complete many missions. Just like yesterday, being able to complete 3 quests in a day was already considered a very good efficiency. It was almost impossible to go any higher. Last night, Qin Zhao had completed 20 missions alone. Moreover, the entire country was flying all over the place. The meeting date between the Supernatural Organization and the Huaxia Special Intelligence Division was approaching. Qin Zhao had almost completed all the missions on his side. This time, other than the outer members, all the core members participated. Qin Zhao booked a private plane for them. Qin Zhao's private jet couldn't fit so many people either. "Mr. Qin, I'm O for Lurby. Are you satisfied with the yachts produced by our company?" Not bad, Qin Zhao said. "Then, you said that you want to order 7 more cruises. I'll place an order for 3 this year. If I'm satisfied with the delivery of the 3 ships, I'll place more orders. In addition, I want each ship to have a unique design. This is my gift to every child, so I don't want to repeat the same design. As for the details, you can send someone over to discuss it with my representative." Okay. I'll report it to the company right now." This might be the largest order since Seagate was established. No, it was the largest order for a yacht company in the world. Apart from the retailers. However, even if the retailer ordered 100 yachts, it would not be enough. The profits probably wouldn't be as great as ordering a super cruise. In less than 2 days, Seagate sent a huge negotiation team. Qin Zhao also called Alex's legal team to take charge of this negotiation. Ofer Lurby personally came to Qin Zhao to build a relationship. He was the leader this time because he'd been the one who negotiated the order last time. Seagate naturally thought that he had a good relationship with Qin Zhao. But this wasn't a small business. They could talk about friendship. However, it was impossible for them to make concessions during the negotiation. The current negotiation was naturally on Qin Zhao's side. Alex held the initiative firmly in her hands. After all, this wasn't a fair negotiation in the first place. Qin Zhao was irreplaceable as a consumer. But Seagate wasn't his only choice. Qin Zhao had too many choices. He could switch to a bigger and better company. Actually, Alex's one sentence during the negotiation was enough to make the Seagate representative speechless. "If the price is the same, why would our boss choose your company? Talk about feelings? Believe it or not, if word gets out, countless yacht companies will be willing to come and lick our boss's boots." Also, Alex wasn't just saying it. The second day after the negotiation started, she really spread the news. On the same day, she received inquiries from all the top 20 yacht companies in the world. Thus, the Seagate representative kept retreating at the negotiation table. On one hand, they had to grasp this opportunity with all their might. They couldn't just hand over the fat meat that was already in their mouths. Actually, the point of the negotiation was how much their company could earn. It was impossible for them to make a loss. The fact that they could continue the negotiation meant that the price hadn't reached the cost yet. Every 0.1% discount was worth millions of dollars. The negotiation lasted for 20 days. Finally, Alex handed the contract to Qin Zhao. She'd saved Qin Zhao hundreds of millions of dollars in expenses, and he'd paid her handsomely. Qin Zhao was still as busy as a dog every day. Although the backlog of commissions had been cleared, there were still new ones appearing every day. There were quite a lot of them, too. Furthermore, the number of paranormal incidents in the United States had increased exponentially in the past year. Now, Chen Zhao was trying to deal with all the commissions every day. Of course, the time-consuming ones were left to the outer members of the society. On the other hand, the spiritual organizations were accepting a lot of commissions. This actually reduced Chen Zhao's pressure quite a bit. Now, Qin Zhao only hoped that the negotiation could end as soon as possible. But Qin Zhao couldn't rush them. Instead of calling it a negotiation, it was more like giving the supernatural organization a long holiday. Chapter 3279. Hello? Is this the supernatural organization? Yes. Who is it? I'm Senge. I made an appointment with the supernatural organization 2 days ago. From your voice, you should be the one who contacted me. You said you'd help me in 3 days, so I'm calling to ask if you can send someone over to help me. Oh, I remember now. Wait a moment. Chen Zhao quickly flipped through the document. He finally found Seng's document. His daughter seemed to be possessed by a demon. The document was marked as urgent. Chen Zhao had an impression of this. However, he'd had a lot of missions these days. So, he'd forgotten about this urgent mission. I'll confirm the address with you. If there's no problem, I'll send someone over. Okay. After confirming the address, Chen Zhao immediately rushed over. Now, he was in charge of accepting and carrying out missions. Soon, he arrived at Seng's residence. Hello, Mr. Singh. I'm from the supernatural organization. Seng looked at Qin Zhao. After some thought, he said, You're the one who called me twice, right? Aren't you the operator? Qin Zhao was a bit awkward. I'm also in charge of carrying out missions. Of course, we have a lot of people. You can call me because this area is under my jurisdiction, so most missions are assigned to me. Oh, I see. But you're a professional, right? Yes. Don't worry. I'm a very professional exorcist. Good. Please come in. Sung was quite well off. He lived in a high-end neighborhood. The decorations were more luxurious too. However, when he reached the bedroom, he saw a lot of messiness and damage. This is? My daughter did it. Seng's expression was serious. When he reached his daughter's door, he asked again to confirm. Mr. Chen, are you sure it's okay? Don't worry. Qin Zhao was very patient with clients. At least, he wouldn't lose his temper at them most of the time. On one hand, they were laymen, so they would naturally be suspicious of the so-called spiritualist and exorcist's identity. On the other hand, they or their families were being attacked by supernatural events. They naturally wanted to get rid of the trouble as soon as possible, so it was understandable that they repeatedly confirmed Qin Zhao's abilities and identity. Unless it was the Carlos brothers' trap a few days ago. Only in such a situation would Qin Zhao counterattack. Sengo carefully opened the door handle. Qin Zhao saw his daughter's room. The room, which was originally pink, now looked like it had been invaded by a wild beast. It was a mess, and there were scratch marks everywhere. The walls, the ceiling, the furniture, everything. Lying on the bed was a girl about 10 years old. The girl's hands and feet were spread out, and all 4 of them were tied up. Senj was a little scared and worried. Mr. Chen, are you all right? Don't worry. Chen Zhao nodded slightly. I won't joke around with your daughter and your safety. At this moment, the quiet girl suddenly opened her eyes. Following that, the girl's pupils began to turn black. The whole house began to shake. Black liquid flowed under the girl's skin. The girl floated up slightly and faced Chen Zhao. but she seemed unable to break free from the ropes that bound her. Another exorcist? Are you here to die? The girl grinned. She was supposed to be an obedient and adorable young girl, but at this moment she made one's hair stand on end. My dear father, are you so eager for your daughter to die? Sengo was already paralyzed in front of the door. Mr. Chen, please. Chen Zhao crossed his arms in front of his chest and tapped his chin with his fingers, as if thinking. Mr. Chen, hurry up and exorcise the demon. Wait. Chen Zhao wasn't in a hurry. He had been observing the girl. After a long while, Chen Zhao looked at her. You can devour other people's fear and turn it into your own power, right? I've seen demons like this before. When you tried to devour my fear, I felt that it was very familiar. The girl stared at Chen Zhao. Since you know, hurry up and scram. Are you panicking? Or we can talk. Chen Zhao smiled at the girl. Or I can drag you out of the girl's body and talk. As he spoke, Chen Zhao's palm turned into lava, emitting a scorching heat. The lava dripped from Chen Zhao's palm and burned a hole in the wooden floor. You definitely don't want to be dragged out by me, right? Human, if you forcefully pull me out, this girl will die too. You're an exorcist, right? You don't want to see that, right? The demon in the girl's body said in terror. As a descendant of the King of Fear, when you feel fear, it's your most desperate moment. Seeing that Chen Zhao could change the attitude of the demon in his daughter with a few words, Sengo was overjoyed. Mr. Chen, hurry up and destroy this demon. Chen Zhao waved his hand. No rush. Some things can't be solved with violence, right, descendant of fear? What do you want to talk about? If you want me to leave the girl's body, that's impossible. Are you twins with the girl? Chen Zhao asked. The descendant of fear in the girl's body didn't come from hell. Chen Zhao could tell. After all, he often traveled between the human world and hell. He had seen many demons in hell. Demons in hell always had a strong smell of sulfur. However, the descendant of fear didn't have that, and she wasn't strong. She felt like a newborn demon. But how could there be newborn demons in the human world? Especially a descendant of a demon king. So, there was only one possibility. This descendant of fear wasn't an outsider. It was born from the girl's own bloodline. Chen Zhao guessed that she might have awakened her bloodline. The descendant of fear in the girl's bloodline also had its own consciousness. Being a twin was a rather troublesome thing because it meant that the souls of the two were closely linked. Chen Zhao's slap could pull the fear demon out of the body, but it would also pull the girl's soul out. Mr. Chen, what are you saying? Chen Zhao glanced at Sengo. More accurately, this demon is also your daughter. She's your daughter's sister. She's always been in your daughter's body and blood. Do you understand what I'm saying? But how is that possible? I'm just a normal person. My wife is also a normal person. How can we have a demon daughter? There's no doubt that your wife's ancestor has a demon ancestor. It's very thin, but it does exist. Now that the demon bloodline in your daughter has awakened, in principle, this demon is your daughter. Chapter 3280. Chen Zhao looked back at Sung and said, To put it simply, if you want the original woman to be safe, then the demon can't be destroyed. I can only make it a secondary consciousness. If you want to completely destroy the demon, then your daughter will die too. At least, I can't destroy the demon without hurting your daughter. Of course, you can find other spiritualists, but I can't guarantee that they'll be more professional than me. Mr. Chen, is there no other way? Is there no way at all? My method is simple. It's purely a violent exorcism, so I can't do the delicate things. Chen Zhao glanced at the girl and continued. If you can find a more professional spiritualist, they might be able to provide a third method, such as sealing the demon's consciousness. If there are no accidents, maybe your daughter can live a peaceful life. Will there be any accidents? 50%, Chen Zhao said. Even if the demon's consciousness is sealed, its power will gradually grow. One day, When the seal fails, your daughter's consciousness will be completely devoured by the demon's consciousness. So if they coexist, won't they be devoured? That's the problem of habit. If you lift weights every day, after 3 to 5 years, even if you can't reach the level of an athlete, you won't be too far off. But if you don't do anything, what will happen if you lift a 100-kilogram barbell in the future? It's the same for your daughter. If they coexist, your daughter will gradually adapt to the demon's consciousness. Moreover, the demon's consciousness is born from her bloodline, so your daughter's consciousness will always be dominant. Also, the demon's consciousness is still your daughter. Qin Zhao looked at Sung. Of course, the decision is up to you. It was not an easy choice for a father to make. Just as Qin Zhao said, the demon's consciousness was born from his daughter's body, or rather awakened. Therefore, he agreed that it was Seng's daughter. After Qin Zhao explained the situation, it would be a difficult decision to kill any one of them or leave two alive. Seng looked at Qin Zhao. Mr. Chen, what if I only want to seal the demon's power? I can't do it. The demon's power and consciousness coexist with your daughter's consciousness. There's no such thing as sealing power alone. But I also need to live a normal life. If she remains in this state, whether it's me, my daughter, or the demon consciousness, none of us can live a normal life. Qin Zhao looked at the girl on the bed. Did you hear that? While your father is making his choice, you should also make your own choice. Do you want to accept your identity and live together with your sisters, or do you want to wait until the day your father is tortured by you to the point of a mental breakdown, and then find a spiritualist to get rid of you? It didn't matter if they came from hell or the human world. Evil or not, demons still had to consider their interests. There was no such thing as a demon having to risk his own life to make this family into a mess. There were such situations, but that was because these demons were not complete demons. They were pure evil. A pure chaotic and disorderly demon consciousness naturally only knew destruction and slaughter. A complete demon would have the same or similar complex thoughts as a human. Qin Zhao had interacted with too many demons, so he knew that evil was only relative. There was no absolute evil, nor was there absolute good. The demon consciousness in the girl's body was new. However, it was more like a copy of the girl's original self with the addition of the demon's inheritance, so it had a different self-awareness from the girl. But it was nonsense to say that she was born evil. I want at least 3 days a week to be my personal time, the descendant of fear said. That's impossible. Qin Zhao shook his head. This body is your sister's body, after all. Your only choice is to appear with your sister's permission. It can't be 1, 3, 5, 5, or 2, 3, 4, or 6 hers. Then what's the difference between me and going to jail? You have to understand that you're a derivative of your sister. Your consciousness and power all exist for your sister. Unless one day you're strong enough to appear without a physical body, your only choice is to have a good relationship with your sister. Qin Zhao paused. Or you can teach your sister to use your power. This will give you more opportunities to communicate. At least 2 days a month, just 2 days, the descendant of fear said, almost begging. I agree, Sengo said seriously. Sengo didn't just compromise. More accurately, he felt sympathy for her. When Qin Zhao called the demon consciousness his daughter, he was also moved by this. Once such feelings were born, it was hard to stay calm. Imagine being a daughter who could only hide in a dark corner for the rest of her life. What would it feel like to be a father? That was why he agreed to the descendant of fear's request without discussing it with his eldest daughter. Actually, Qin Zhao could understand it. After all, Qin Zhao was a father too. In the end, Qin Zhao didn't do anything. The mission this time was more like a mediation for a family. His daughter also returned to normal. The descendant of fear kept her promise. Singa told her daughter everything that had happened. Qin Zhao added on. His daughter also sympathized with the other consciousness in her body. She didn't complain about her father's decision. Sengo sent Qin Zhao out. Mr. Qin, thank you very much for your help. You're welcome. I didn't actually do anything. This mission was rather special to Qin Zhao. He had completed so many missions. This was the only one where he didn't use force. Take good care of your daughter, including her. Relationships need to be built. I know I can't give her a new body, but I want her to be happy too. It's good that you think like that. Just as Qin Zhao was about to leave, 5 spiritualists came in. There were 3 men and 2 women. Are you the one causing trouble? One of them was dressed the same as Halley's. He looked at Qin Zhao coldly. Qin Zhao frowned. Mr. Sengo, do you know them? Sengo was also confused. Who are you? You don't need to know who we are. You only need to know that the reason you're still alive is because we thought you were unimportant. But now it seems that we were wrong. We should have killed you long ago to prevent you from affecting our plans. Chapter 3281. The gloomy, dispirited man raised his hand. An evil spirit started coiling around it. The next moment, the black spirit flew out of his hand and shot towards Sengo. Sengo froze in fear. He didn't even know how to dodge. However, the black spirit was blocked by another hand. Qin Zhao reached out and grabbed it. Do you know that it's taboo to attack innocent people? Qin Zhao squeezed the black spirit in his hand gently. The gloomy, dispirited man sneered. You dare to touch my Black Death with your body? You won't end up any better. Really? Qin Zhao looked at his palm. It had indeed turned black. It had been corroded by the black spirit's death aura. Mr. Sengo, you can go back first. Mr. Qin. Don't worry. Leave it to me. You won't be of much help here. Then, okay. Sengo carefully retreated into the house and closed the door softly. The moment the door closed, Qin Zhao crushed the Black Death monster. You dare to kill my Black Death? Then you'll replace. Before the gloomy, dispirited man could finish, his hands fell to the ground. My hands? My hands? Oh no! The fastest to react was a woman in a purple t-shirt. Her right palm glowed with purple light, but before she could push it out, her right palm broke too. Her right palm was also broken. It wasn't the kind that was cut off, but it was torn off. Her body seemed to be pulled by some force, and she fell to the ground. Ah! The woman in the purple t-shirt screamed in pain. The others felt their scalps go numb. The fat man beside them had just taken a step forward when his body was lifted upside down. His body was lifted upside down, and his left foot was torn off. The remaining man and woman didn't dare to move anymore. They didn't understand what had happened at all. The man hadn't done anything at all. But out of their 3 companions, one had lost 2 arms, 1 palm, and 1 leg. This was practically tearing off all their limbs. They'd never seen something so cruel. In the past, they'd encountered spiritualists. They couldn't even survive 1 round of attacks. However, this ordinary-looking spiritualist in front of him was indescribably terrifying. Kill him! Kill him! Kill him! The gloomy and dispirited man roared in pain. Both of his arms had been chopped off. At this moment, he had no combat power to speak of. Magma appeared under Qin Yao's feet. Like a snake, it coiled around the gloomy, dispirited man. The gloomy, dispirited man let out a heart-wrenching scream. The scorching lava scorched his skin. In the next moment, the lava poured directly into the cold and dispirited man's mouth. Rumble, rumble. The gloomy and dispirited man died, and he died in great pain. By the time his body fell, his organs had already been roasted. Lava seeped out of his cracked skin. At this moment, Sengo wanted to come out. But before he could open the door, Qin Zhao stopped him. After all, Sengo was just an ordinary person. The scene outside was rather bloody. Mr. Qin, are you all right? I'm fine. It'll be over soon. It's better if you don't come out. Qin Zhao's lava turned into a dark shadow again. First, it completely wiped away the ashes of the gloomy, dispirited man. Then it engulfed the blood and broken limbs at the scene. Finally, it picked up the few people and left. They either no longer had the ability to fight, or they didn't have the courage to resist. Thus, they allowed Qin Zhao to bind them and leave. Qin Zhao brought them to a secluded place. Only then did he release them. Tell me, who are you? Why did you attack Sengo? Did you also awaken his daughter's demonic bloodline? No one spoke. It seemed like no one was willing to speak first. Of course, Qin Zhao never cared about their stubbornness. The dark shadow turned into countless blades, dragging the woman in the purple shirt into it. The woman was sliced into pieces by the countless spinning blades. Blood splattered everywhere. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. This went on for a minute. Then the woman went completely silent. When the dark magma retreated, the woman's corpse was no longer human. This group of people had never seen such a cruel scene. In the past, when they faced spiritualists, even if they were individually strong, most of them would be merciful. They had never met an enemy who would kill them so cruelly. The man before them was different from all the spiritualists they'd met and interacted with in the past. Powerful, cold, merciless, and merciless. I only need one person who can answer my question. I'll kill everyone else. Don't expect me to be merciful, and don't think that you'll get lucky. You can't beat me, and you can't escape from me. In Qin Zhao's eyes, these young people really weren't strong enough. They weren't that strong themselves. But they thought that they were. Qin Zhao didn't know who gave them the courage to have such a misunderstanding. Perhaps they hadn't met any decent opponents in the past. But Qin Zhao would never tolerate them. I will not accommodate them either. I'll tell you. The remaining white-clothed girl cried out bitterly. I'll tell you everything you want to know. The others' expressions changed drastically. The girl in the white shirt no longer dared to look at her friends. Just then, a breeze blew past. The girl's cries stopped abruptly. When she turned around, she saw her 3 remaining friends frozen in the distance. 3 black tentacles extended from each of their backs. Dark shadows penetrated their skin from behind and continuously seeped into their bodies. In the end, black liquid seeped out of their eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. Finally, they collapsed onto the ground powerlessly. The girl in the white shirt trembled in fear. Compared to the man before her, their bravery and ruthlessness towards others in the past wasn't even worth mentioning. Stop crying and organize your words, Qin Zhao said calmly. Don't let me feel that there's anything wrong with what you're saying. Otherwise, I'll cut you up piece by piece. You'll die more miserably than any of them. Your voice will be broken from crying. The girl in the white shirt tried her best to control her tears. She could feel that the man before her wasn't joking with her. His cruelty and coldness had already been proven in advance. It's our boss, Anthony Urk. He ordered us to do everything. Purpose. Summon the Lord of Hell, the Demon King. Demon King? Lord of Hell? At first glance, it sounded quite scary. But Qin Zhao had unparalleled experience in summoning demons. The Lord of Hell was a handsome guy, Satan. The Demon King referred to Satan and the other 6 kings of deadly sins. The 7 of them couldn't appear in the human world at all, not even as clones. Unless it was like Samuel, a consciousness without any power to speak of. The other demons had more or less grown in power around Qin Zhao. But Samuel was a kitten when he first appeared. He was still a kitten now. He could occasionally borrow the power of Qin Zhao's dark shadow, but he would pant for half a day after moving a few times. So, Qin Zhao didn't believe that anyone could summon the Demon King. Chapter 3282. However, summoning demons was quite professional. Knowing 3 to 5 demons, summoning spells and summoning dozens or hundreds of times wasn't considered a professional. Qin Zhao was a true professional. He had summoned demons of all levels. How many sacrifices did he need for each type of demon, and what conditions did he need to summon them? Qin Zhao could basically count them all. He hadn't been in the spiritual world for long. Speaking of common sense, Qin Zhao's attempts in the spiritual world were basically counting backwards. But when it came to summoning demons, if Qin Zhao said he was second, no one would dare to say they were first. Earth was the main plane, but it was only so big. A demon lord's territory was so big. For example, Beelzebub Zophie's territory had devoured 6 or 7 demon lords of the same level. His original territory was almost as big as a world. So, the price to summon a demon of this level was already astronomical. Sacrificing tens of millions of people for a few minutes was pointless. So, in theory, it was already impossible to summon a demon of the level of a demon lord. It was impossible in the past, and it was even more impossible now. Even with Qin Zhao's relationship with Beelzebub Zophie. He probably didn't want his sacrifices. Qin Zhao still had to prepare an astronomical number of materials for the summoning ceremony. Summoning demons wasn't a one-sided contract. Activating the summoning process required very strict conditions. Magic, sacrifices, and contracts, none of them could be missing. So, he had to summon a demon above the level of a demon lord. It wouldn't be as simple as a sacrifice. If a demon lord appeared in the modern world, due to the world barrier and the suppression of the power of the world, its power would be suppressed by at least half. If it was a secondary demon king, it wouldn't even have 1% of its power. Earth wasn't a small world. It was a world with complete rules. If the power of the world here completely suppressed Qin Zhao, he might self-destruct at any moment. But Qin Zhao was a native creature. He was part of the world's consciousness. So, Qin Zhao wouldn't be suppressed by the power of the world. But if he went to other worlds, he would be suppressed by the power of the world. Of course, apart from hell, Qin Zhao hadn't been to any other worlds with complete rules. All he went to were small worlds with incomplete rules. The power of the small worlds would suppress Qin Zhao. But he didn't feel uncomfortable at all. This was because Qin Zhao had a small world. His inner world was a small world. Therefore, to Qin Zhao, the world power of the small world posed no threat, or rather, the threat was relatively small. In a world with complete rules, the more powerful an outsider was, the stronger the suppression would be. Even if the great demon king was several times stronger, he would not be spared. Samuel was a typical example. Even he couldn't resist the world force under the complete laws. Therefore, when he appeared in the modern world, not to mention power, it didn't even have a complete form. It could only exist in the form of a kitten. That was why Qin Zhao told the girl that he wanted to summon the Lord of Hell. It wasn't that he didn't believe it, but he found it laughable. "Where can I find your boss, Anthony Milk?" "I can't find him. He always contacts me when he has a mission." The white-shirt girl looked at Qin Zhao in fear. "Then do you know the specific steps of this summoning ritual?" "I know, but I'm not sure if I can complete it," Shiz replied. "Tell me." "First, you have to gather the descendants of the King of Terror, King of Power, King of Death, King of Depravity, King of Destruction, King of Darkness, King of Blood, King of Nightmares, King of Winter, King of Fire, King of Withering, and King of Nirvana. Then, use their blood to activate the Ancient Magic Array and summon the Lord of Hell." "What's the Ancient Magic Array?" "It was discovered by our boss, Anthony Irk. It's a magic circle in a relic." "Where?" "I don't know." "How often does Anthony Milk contact you?" "Usually 2 to 3 days." Qin Zhao carried the white-shirt girl back to Los Angeles. The girl didn't know who Qin Zhao was. However, Qin Zhao had carried her all the way back to Los Angeles. The whole process took less than 3 minutes. This ability was enough to make her tremble in fear. She felt that Qin Zhao was much scarier than her boss, Anthony Milk. The girl was called Tem Isabella. She wasn't an experienced spiritualist. It had only been half a year since she entered and came into contact with the spiritual world. Then he was noticed by Anthony Irk. Speaking of which, her ability was quite powerful. She could create large amounts of water out of thin air. Furthermore, it could control the water within a certain area. If it was in a place with a lot of water, such as a river, lake, or sea, it would be very difficult. Her combat power would soar. Especially at sea level, she could even create a small tsunami. Of course, now that it was in Chen Zhao's hands, there was no need to think about it anymore. She didn't have the courage to challenge him. After all, those companions were not any weaker than her. None of them could last more than 2 rounds. After Qin Zhao threw Tam Isabella into the dungeon, Chen Zhaoxi dialed the little handsome guy's number. Little handsome. Is the mount you promised me not ready yet? No, I'm working on it. Have you heard of a summoning spell that uses the blood of 13 descendants of lesser demon kings to summon the 7 deadly sins? How is that possible? Even the blood of 130 or 1,300 descendants of lesser demon kings can't summon 1/10,000th of any of the 7 deadly sins, let alone 13. Even the blood of lesser demon kings can't do it. Plus, there are only 99 of them. Then, according to your estimation, if this magic formation is completed and the blood of the descendants of lesser demon kings is gathered, what level of demon can be summoned? Can it be a lesser demon king? No, it's too far away. It's possible if it's 1% of a lesser demon king's power, but it can only exist for a short time. It might not even last a breath. The consciousness and power of the summoned lesser demon king will be instantly destroyed by the power of the world. The remaining demon king's power will also cause great damage. Qin Zhao couldn't help but feel nervous. How much damage will it cause? With your current strength, it won't be a threat to you. It should cause a few years of climate change. Then, the power of the world in the main plane will gradually repair the disrupted climate. It won't cause the end of humanity, right? Nope. That's good. But if someone wants to activate this summoning spell, it's most likely to be a great lord or a lord demon. Chapter 3283. Chen Zhao finished communicating with the handsome guy. Chen Zhao also relaxed a little. At least he confirmed that it wasn't a ritual to summon a demon king. It made sense. It was impossible to summon a demon king anyway. Although it wasn't a groundless worry. After confirming it, Chen Zhao heaved a long sigh of relief. Even if the enemy wanted to summon a great lord, it would be troublesome. If it was a great lord, Qin Zhao was 100% confident. But in a battle of this level, Qin Zhao couldn't guarantee what kind of effect it would have. Unless Qin Zhao could kill it in one blow. Otherwise, it would definitely cause great damage. On the 3rd day, Tam Isabella told Qin Zhao. Anthony Falk had contacted her. Anthony Falk asked Tam Isabella to collect the blood of the descendant of terror as soon as possible. Qin Zhao wanted Tam Isabella to agree to his request first, and tell him that she'd already collected it. Then, they agreed on the delivery location. Tam Isabella arrived at the delivery location. She was at the edge of a cornfield on a farm. After waiting for about half an hour, a car stopped in front of Tam Isabella. A man got out of the car. He wore sunglasses that covered most of his face. The man glanced at Tam Isabella. "Why are you alone?" "They're busy." Tam Isabella was actually very nervous. Nevertheless, she still forced herself to calm down and replied, "How come there's no signal when I tried to contact them earlier?" "There's no signal at the place they went to," Tam Isabella replied calmly. "I don't know what they're doing either. After getting the blood, they told me and left. I don't know where exactly they went." These were all lines that she had rehearsed before. When she'd been locked up, she'd practiced these lines countless times. So, she could speak quite fluently now. "Where's the thing I want?" Tam Isabella took out a test tube. It was filled with red liquid. There was also a strong aura. Even through the test tube, one could still feel the strong demonic aura. Such a strong aura. "Are you sure it's from the girl who just awakened?" the man asked. "Yes." Tam Isabella nodded. She didn't know if this was devil's blood, and she wasn't even sure if it was blood. Qin Zhao had prepared this for her. After hearing the words of the sunglasses man, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Strange, could it be that the girl's bloodline is very similar? The man in sunglasses held the test tube and looked at it again and again. He was sure that this was indeed devil's blood. Only evil demon blood could emit such a strong evil demon aura. But he was afraid of making a mistake. After all, he was the one who activated the demonic bloodline in the girl. At that time, he did not notice that the girl had such a pure demonic bloodline. If he had known earlier, he would have made better use of it. "Okay, you can go now," said the sunglasses man. "What about the benefits you promised me?" Tem Isabella asked. The sunglasses man smiled and took out a check. "This is yours. You guys did well this time," the man in sunglasses said. "I'll need your help next time. When they come back, tell them not to go to places without signal next time." "Got it." Tem Isabella nodded. "Oh, you're Anthony Irk, right?" The man in shades smiled and did not answer Tem Isabella's question directly. "I'm in a hurry. Bye." After returning to the car, the man said to the driver beside him, "Let's go." "Did you get it?" the driver asked. "Yes, but something's not right. Let's go first." "Hurry." After the car left, Tem Isabella was somewhat hesitant. She was unsure if she should stay where she was. She did not dare to run. After all, Chen Zhao's terror was still fresh in her memory. She wasn't sure if she would be punished if she left without telling Chen Zhao. At the moment, Chen Zhao was chasing the car. The car had been driving for an hour. "Are you sure there's something wrong with that woman?" the driver asked. "I'm not sure, but I can't contact her companions." "Didn't she say that they went to a place without signal?" "I've checked the whereabouts of those people, and there are no records of them leaving the city. 3 days ago, her companions disappeared. Their families and friends don't have accurate information about them, and their daily necessities are still there." "You've been investigating this for the past few days?" "What we're doing is too risky. We have to be careful with every operation." "What do we do now?" "Keep driving in the city. Don't stop." 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. The car kept driving in the city without any rules. "Should we keep driving?" "Yes." The man in sunglasses nodded. "I don't see anyone following us. Stop at the service station in front. I'll go buy some food." The man got out of the car and bought some food. Then he returned to the car. "Okay, we can go back now. But we haven't given the client our stuff yet." "Already? In this service station?" "Yes." The man in sunglasses nodded. The driver was about to start driving when a man suddenly appeared in front of them. The driver rolled down the window and was about to yell. The man walked to the back door of the car and sat in. "You!" Chen Zhao leaned against the window and supported his face with one hand. "Drive." "Who are you?" Chen Zhao tilted his head and looked at the two people in front. "Tell me, who did you give the stuff to?" The driver and the man in sunglasses glanced at each other. They moved in unison and opened their car doors, wanting to rush out. Click. Before they could open the door, it locked automatically. Then the accelerator was pressed down and the car started. It sped out of the service station. Both of their expressions changed. "Who exactly are you?" "I'm the one asking you questions, not the other way around. You should be clear about the current situation. Don't you know who we are? We're from the Wayne brothers and sisters. You won't have a good ending if you attack us." The car sped up, faster and faster. It even exceeded the car's original horsepower. The car sped down the street. Both of them lost control of the car. Even the police car that was chasing them was left far behind. The car sped out of the city. The two were already pressed into the seats, unable to move. "Do you know where the end of this road is?" Chen Zhao asked. "No. I don't, Tate Coast, but there's a cliff at the end. At this speed, there's still about 18 minutes. This means that you have 18 minutes to think about my question." Chapter 3284. The man in shades and the driver tried all sorts of methods. Escape from the car, or control Chen Zhao. But they all failed. They still couldn't control the car. By then, the car had already entered the coastal highway. They could already see the end of the highway on the cliff. The two grew even more anxious. Stop the car! You'll die too! Stop the car! Ha! Sorry, you'll be the ones dying, Chen Zhao said casually. The car suddenly sped up again. By then, the car had already turned toward the cliff. 50 meters, 40 meters, 30 meters. It was getting closer and closer. Stop! The man in shades yelled hysterically. I'll tell you! Whoosh! The car charged off the cliff. Ah! The man in shades and the driver both let out heart-wrenching cries. But the car didn't fall. Instead, it floated a dozen meters above the cliff. What's going on? The two broke out in cold sweat and couldn't help but swallow. You don't need to be agitated like this, Chen Zhao said, smiling. Who the fuck are you? From now on, please be careful when you speak. I'll extract some organs from your bodies according to the situation, Chen Zhao said. No, Chen Zhao said. Can you tell me which one of you is Anthony Irk or where he is now? We're not Anthony Irk. We don't know him either. As soon as the man in shades finished speaking, his left ear fell off. My ear! My ear, what did you do? The man in shades screamed in pain. I don't like lies. I'm telling the truth, the man in shades said in pain. We're dangerous carriers. Anthony Irk is only our client. We've never seen him before. How do I know if you're telling the truth? You can log onto our secret website with your phone and search for information about us. Chen Zhao took out his phone and typed in their website. As expected, information about them popped up. The two of them were people who specialized in transporting special items for various industries, especially the spiritual world. This was especially true for the spirit world. Most of the items they transported were items commissioned by the spirit world. They could be treasures that people fought over or items that could cause great harm. For example, the demon blood this time. They didn't care what the demon blood was used for. But Chen Zhao still didn't believe them. I heard your conversation with Elizabeth. Your relationship is not as simple as transporting goods. It's just a website. I can prepare 100 in a minute. This kind of preparation is meaningless. I activated that girl's demon bloodline. To be precise, she only activated it after I gave it to her. This is also a request. It's from Anthony Milk. He asked us to deliver it to the girl. Well, what about your relationship with Elizabeth? Did you entrust Elizabeth or that Anthony Milk? It's Anthony Milk. But your conversation makes me feel like you hired them. All right, we already knew who they were before this. They had just awakened less than half a year ago, but they were all very powerful and high profile. So, we just pretended to be Anthony Irk and talked to her. Chen Zhao rubbed his chin and picked up the phone. Aluntarai, Minette, what do you think? President, there are a lot of loopholes in his answers. First of all, he said he was trying to disguise Anthony Falco's tone. To disguise Anthony Falco's tone, the person must be someone familiar with him. However, Miss Elizabeth didn't notice his conversation with her, which means he's not only good at disguising himself, but he's also very familiar with Miss Elizabeth. From these 2 points, we can tell he's not just a delivery man. Aluntarai said. President, let me add something, Minette said. I logged in according to the website he gave me. The website looks similar, but there are many loopholes. I checked the back-end records and only today has an IP. There's also no record of a request. This means that his preparation isn't perfect. This is their mistake. Another thing is that their delivery method seems very strict, but there are actually many loopholes. They only stopped once, at the service station, and even bought something. So if we break the process into several steps, we can understand their delivery method. First, they get off the car, enter the store, choose the item, and pay. I discussed it with Aluntarai. The most likely step is the payment step. You mean there's a problem with the cashier? No, there's nothing wrong with the cashier. They give the cashier the banknotes with the information of the goods. At this time, the customers following behind get the banknotes from the cashier by giving them change. This is a more popular underground transaction method now. They use an unrelated person as a middleman, and then complete the transaction without the middleman knowing. Chen Zhao understood. He raised his head and looked at the man in shades and the driver. Now, do you have anything else to add? Both of their expressions became extremely ugly. I've heard of dangerous goods transportation, Manette added. But it's not like this. First of all, they won't take the goods from a certain place. Instead, they'll pick up the goods from a certain place. The delivery method is also more strict. So, President, I think you can obtain information through violence now. It'll be more effective. Okay, sorry for interrupting your vacation. Continue to have fun. Qin Zhao looked at the two. You still have some time. The man in shades and the driver felt a force pressing down on them from all directions. Their bodies started shrinking. Qin Zhao looked at them calmly. You'll soon be squashed into meatballs by my power. Before you die, you still have a chance to speak. Just like Miss Elizabeth, I only need someone to speak. The man in shades and the driver glanced at each other. They could already feel extreme pain. Their bones were wailing. Their bodies pressed against each other under the unfamiliar force. They started panting heavily, but it couldn't reduce their pain. Soon, they found it hard to breathe. Blood started seeping out from their mouths, noses, and ears. Their eyes bulged out from their bloodshot eyes. I'll talk, the driver said with difficulty. Qin Zhao looked at the time. 49 seconds. I thought you could last at least a minute. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.